Yeah.
Good morning. I'm calling to order the City of Panama City Commission meeting for January 13th, 8 a.m. We're going to start out by opening prayer with Reverend Friday, pastor of Living Waters Ministry, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Granger. Please stand. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for another day that you've given us. We thank you for your loving kindness and grace. And Father, I ask that you bless us during this critical time in history, that you would give us your divine intervention. God, that you might guide us, that we might make the right decisions during this time, and we might come together to solve problems together as one. Father, I ask that you bless the commission, bless the mayor, bless all of us who consider ourselves leaders, that we might be the leaders that you expect us to be, that we might abide by your righteousness and not our own. God, that we might be the examples to these young leaders, that they might be the leaders of tomorrow, and that they might lead in the way of righteousness. In the name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Mayor Branch.
Present.
Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Commissioner Lucas.
Present.
Commissioner Granger.
Present.
Commissioner Street.
Here.
Mayor, you have quorum.
You've received the meeting minutes from December 16th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas.
Yes.
Commissioner Granger.
Yes.
Commissioner Street.
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Any additions, deletions, or modifications?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, staff has two. If you look under City Manager, Section 11, 11D, the report, that was actually supposed to be part of 11F. So I really just want to merge 11D into 11F for the last item of the day. However, I do need to add an item to discuss with y'all and get some additional authorization in and around Mardi Gras and that celebration next month in downtown St. Andrews. So I would request that the attachment and specific discussion around 11D be actually moved into 11F. And then the new 11D would be the conversation seeking additional authorization around Mardi Gras special event in downtown St. Andrews. That's it from staff.
I'd like to add a discussion about trash. About the trash service.
You want that to be 12?
Yeah, we can do that at 12.
12, trash.
I was going to request transfer station. Do you want me to make my own request, or do you want
No,
me
I would put that as part of that
Okay,
discussion.
that's fine.
Okay.
All right. I motion that we move. Okay.
There's one more. Nevin?
Sorry? One. Nevin, go
Did you
ahead.
have one, Nevin?
We got lots of them.
I do.
Just shred the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, 11E, it's under city manager, but it was based on information I was to receive from City Marina Partners. It's a report and discussion on the cost to settle expenses on the interim agreement. We did get an invoice yesterday afternoon late, but we have not had an opportunity to review it, so we request that it be removed from this agenda and we'll bring it back.
Okay, removing 11E.
Okay.
Can I talk before we start voting on, like, maybe after 7A? I'd just like to address the,
So after audience participation?
after audience participation.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Any particular thing you want to talk about?
so people understand. But, sir?
Any particular thing you want to talk about?
Priorities and spending, how about that?
sounds good. Love
All
it.
right, I motion that we move 11 Delta to 11 Foxtrot, include a discussion of Mardi Gras, remove 11 Echo, and then add 7 Alpha for Robbie Hughes, as well as add item number 12 as a trash talk. And move item 12 to item 13.
Awesome. We have
Which is still to adjourn at some point, right?
Did that,
There went the hour 15.
did that include 11E?
It was a removal of 11. Yes.
You removed 11E.
You good, Jen?
I'm good.
got it. Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 5, community announcements.
Yeah, musically up close, the Panama City Symphony, in partnership with the City of Panama City, brings live musical performances to the City Hall Rotunda once a month through their Musically Up Close series. The next performance will be this coming Friday, January 16th at 3:30 p.m. Our Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department will be hosting multiple tree giveaways throughout the year in order to restore the urban canopy lost after Hurricane Michael. The next giveaway event is this Saturday at the Downtown Farmers Market beginning at 8 a.m. until supplies last. Live oaks and river birch will be the trees that Bay County residents can choose from at this event. To fill out a registration form and see a list of dates for the giveaways, please visit our website. The city is proud to announce the grand opening of the MLK Junior Rec Center this coming Friday, January 16th from 4 to 8 p.m. Join city officials and the community as we celebrate this momentous occasion with special guest speakers, live music, and delicious food, open play, and more. The MLK Junior Recreation Center will have special holiday hours during the MLK weekend, open from 10 to 4 this Saturday, Sunday, and on MLK Day, which is Monday. Regular weekday hours for the center will be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. starting on Tuesday, January 20th, and regular weekend hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturdays and noon to 5 p.m. on Sundays. While the rec center will be open for the holiday on Monday, January 19th, all city offices will be closed. Normal business will resume on Tuesday, January 20th at 8 a.m. There will be no change to the garbage or trash collection schedule. As discussion continues on the future development of the downtown marina, the city is moving forward with additional opportunities for public engagement. Citizens, stakeholders, and planners are encouraged to collaborate on design and infrastructure solutions at a series of Dover Coles charrettes. The charrettes will all occur at City Hall on January 21st at 5 p.m. and January 22nd at 12 to 2 p.m. and again that evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Panama City's Charter Review Advisory Board is actively engaged in a comprehensive review of the city charter, an important governing document that hasn't seen a full revision since 1963. Panama City's Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee is also gathering community input regarding parks under consideration for potential consolidation through 4 town halls this month. The first being tonight for Ward 1 at 5:30 p.m. at the Daffin Park Clubhouse. For more information, please visit the city's website at panamacity.gov. The city will host a community meeting for residents to learn about upcoming improvements to the Joe Moody Harris Park on Monday, January 26th. Will be held at the MLK Junior Rec Center from 5:30 to 7 p.m. For the most timely and important updates, sign up to receive official city alerts straight to your inbox or smartphone. Scan the QR code or visit panamacity.gov to sign up today. All right, and at this time, I think we're going to have all of our leadership, Junior Leadership Bay, come forward, and the elected officials are going to go down for a photo. Leadership Bay is a flagship program sponsored by the Bay County Chamber of Commerce. It brings together emerging and established leaders for an immersive, hands-on experience focused on Bay County's key systems like local government, education, healthcare, economic development, and nonprofits. The goal is simple but ambitious. Build informed, connected leaders who understand how the community works and who are prepared to serve, collaborate, and lead with impact across all of Bay County.
Bay high in the front, Rutherford in the back.
Sorry.
The tall crew.
Hide behind. See?
Yeah.
I like that paisley. I'm over here doing Jared's job. Moving furniture. Yeah.
What are they?
We got 3 of them now.
I know. Have you done your?
Yep, I did it.
All right.
last week.
All right, item 6A is the second and final of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3294, an ordinance amending, something just happened.
I'm live.
Item 6A is the second and final of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3294, an ordinance amending section 102-40 conditional use permits and section 104-66 gateway overlay of the Unified Land Development Code. As background information, ordinance 3294 is proposed will amend section 102-40 conditional use permits and section 104-66 the gateway overlay of the Unified Land Development Code, or ULDC, by allowing for certain conditional uses in the gateway overlay district. The proposed amendment will allow several currently prohibited uses, such as bail bonds, pawn shops, bottle clubs, etc., in the gateway overlay as conditional uses. The amendment provides specific standards for conditional uses. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on November 10th of 2025, and the Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. At that time, staff concurred. The item was tabled at the November 18th, 2025 City Commission meeting to their December 16th, 2025 meeting. The ordinance proposes a list of following to be subject to conditional use permits. A map showing the gateway overlay extending both 200 feet and 400 feet from the designated roadways is also included for the City Commission's discussion, and the following documents are also enclosed in your packet today. Ordinance number 3294, the staff analysis report and recommendation, and then the gateway overlay district showing both 200 and 400-foot buffers, with a note that currently the gateway overlay does apply 400 feet from the center of the road. Original staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services was that the City Commission conduct a second and final public hearing and approve this ordinance, but I'm going to defer momentarily to Mr. Zimmerman. The intention was to allow, under very certain conditions, certain items that are listed here inside the gateway overlay, with flexibility remaining with the Commission. However, as the process worked out, we realized that if these conditions were met, the Commission would likely not be able to prevent that conditional use from being issued. And that was not really the original intent. So I do believe Mr. Zimmerman will recommend that we table this and staff bring it back at a later time. Mr. Zimmerman?
Well, the intent was to have come up with the conditional use permit process, which is something that the City Commission first created with the Oxford houses. That was a discussion maybe 3 years ago, but that's a situation where Oxford houses, or they're called sober homes, are allowed if they're spaced apart and they met other certain standards. And if they were spaced apart and they met standards, then they were entitled to a conditional use permit. So by definition, a conditional use permit allows it if certain conditions are met. And so in this case, once again, using the logic that was used with Oxford houses, then the conditional use was allowed if there was spacing between those uses. For example, it says that a conditional use permit shall be approved only if the applicant has demonstrated the following. The conditional use is not within 300 feet of another existing conditional use. That is the same. The conditional use is not within 100 feet of any other existing conditional use. The conditional use has limited signage based upon 60 square feet. The conditional use complies with the design standards. And then finally, the conditional use shall be compatible with adjacent land uses. Now, no one knows whether something's compatible until the use is requested. It depends upon location. It depends upon what it is. But one thing that's probably doesn't impact compatibility is if you meet the spacing requirements just because you feel it's otherwise compatible, but you feel like it should be further apart or it shouldn't be there at all, then I don't know that that meets the compatibility standard. If that follows. So if the goal is not to have any of these uses ever within the gateway overlay, then they're not candidates for a conditional use, because there is a situation that if you meet all of these standards, then you would, applicant would be entitled to a conditional use as a matter of right. The commissioners could still refuse to grant it, but then there could be a challenge to that decision. We don't know what those facts are, but that's what the only thing that I wanted to point out, which is this has been this way from the very first draft as far as how the conditional use works.
So,
And
Mr.
this
Mayor-
is a public hearing. Go ahead.
Oh, we want to hear from the public first.
This is a public hearing. If you want to speak about item 6A, the gateway overlay, please come forward to the podium. Yes, sirs.
We got the property here at the,
Come forward. Yes, sir. Just come forward to the microphone. And just your name and your address for the record as well. To the microphone. Yes, sir. And everyone gets 3 minutes.
the address is right here at the,
Sir, I need your name and address.
my name is Mohammed Shams, and I live in 109 Alabama Avenue in Lynn Haven. And I got the property here. It used to be Kawasaki dealership before. We bought it, we've painted, we repaired it. We got the gentleman here sitting, he's gonna open up a boat and sell the boat accessory and selling, and he does not just sell the boat, he does give them a guarantee. If anything goes wrong, they bring it back, he fix them. And he's gonna do that. I wanna know if is that permitted, because he wanna do that. That's a business he's in.
Yeah, Michael, could you give him one of your cards? That's our city planner, Michael Fuller. He's in charge of planning. He can tell you if the business is allowed and work with you to ensure it. Before they open and sign a lease, you want to make sure you can open your business there for sure.
If it's not allowed, I wanna know what
Yeah.
we need to do to
That's
get
who-
that.
Is he asking if that type of business is allowed in the gateway?
Yeah, and Michael might just want to come to the microphone and clarify the statements and see if a boat dealership or repair center is allowed in that area.
Sure.
He needs to come, sir, he needs to come to the microphone.
Mr. Shams.
He needs to come to the microphone. You just slide by. We have people listing on
Yeah.
YouTube and Facebook, so we can.
So Michael Fuller, Director of Development Services. So a boat dealership would be something that's allowed in the gateway. I'm not
What
sure
about like
what.
boat accessories and repair?
Boat accessories? That's not prohibited by the gateway.
Okay. So make sure he has your card.
Yeah.
And make sure he has whatever paperwork he needs to, and the potential tenant.
Because he does have a customer, he need to satisfy his customer. They come back, if something goes wrong, he fix it.
Yeah.
Give them warranty 1 or 2 or 3 years. Just not gonna be this.
We're excited. Thank you for investing in Panama City. Anyone else on item 6A? Yes, sir, Mr. Henry.
Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue. I've been asking a question for a while. Y'all got a building gonna be in your gateway. A shed. Look like it's trying to be office building. I don't know that. I'm assuming. Never got an answer. Nobody said. Is this shed on 98 across from Cactus Avenue? What is that building is going to be there for? A building that folks buy for a shed to go in their yard to store. And this is what this building is. You can make them to be anything you want to be. If you alter them, you can make them like you want it to be. My problem is with that, if this going to happen, and folks are looking for homes to live in, we stop letting folks put trailers inside of the city limits. If you're going to let a building like that be done or happen, why can a person put a trailer on their own property, but you allow somebody to put a shed building on a piece of property that's going to be in your gateway? Nobody never answered. I don't know, you don't want to answer it, or you don't know, because it looked like that is something that we're trying to let it just sit there, and they folks say grandfathered in. And I hope that's not what we're trying to do. Make something look like it's grandfathered in. Now, if a person cannot buy a trailer and put on their personal property, and you go let this building sit in the middle of your gateway.
Thank you. I was going to add, Jonathan, could you have Jake write a statement and answer the question? Because it has come up that there are companies around Bay County who do pre-built structures that are often used as sheds. But if they are up to Florida building code, hurricane clips, nailed on 16s, proper headers, all that sort of thing, and proper tie-downs to the ground, that then follows Florida building code, if I'm not mistaken. The use of the typical structure is a shed, but a shed can be used as a structure if it meets Florida building code. So if you could have Mr. Jake write a statement that clarifies that. I might be wrong. Mr. Henry's asked a couple times related to that shed. Three.
Yep.
So we want to get that answered.
People use them as offices and even live in them when you put air conditioning and all that. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Vanessa Dunnigan. I live at 727 Arrow Street. So I wanted to add some clarity to Mr. Shams, because my husband and I, Thomas, own Boats and Hose mobile service. So at first, we would just be offering repair services, and then once we grow our clientele, then we'll be adding sales to that for boat services. I know I read over the, guidelines of that, and it says repairs are not available on that property. So before we sign the lease, we want to make sure that repairs is the primary business that we're offering, and then once we grow our clientele, then we can start offering boat sales. So I just want clarity to make sure that before I sign that lease.
We can just have a fuller follow-up after the meeting. That would be the best way to do it and ensure that you can open. We don't want you to sign a lease without surety that you can open your business for sure. So, Mr.
I have a
Fuller.
question. Are you referring to item 7 that says recreational vehicle sales, storage, repair?
Correct.
Except for projects approved by the city commission. So as it reads currently, does that mean that their project would have to come back to us for approval?
Well, because it's a gray area.
Correct, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
For clarification, so we all understand.
I think we've encountered this before. I think repairs are not allowed in the gateway overlay, if I'm not mistaken. So, as the primary function.
As a primary, yeah.
Yes, they can be an auxiliary function, but it can't be the primary function.
Well, as it reads here, recreational vehicle RV sales. So would what they're proposing be considered a recreational vehicle, or is that specifically limited to what we know as RVs?
Michael Fuller, Director of Development Services. The use listed in the ordinance is for RVs like your large
Vehicles.
driving bus.
Not boats.
Not boats, correct.
However, boat sales are allowed currently.
They are currently allowed in the gateway.
And if that's your primary function and repairs of those boats is secondary.
Yes,
You're
that's-
compliant.
And that order is allowed.
that's allowed.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But if they lead with repairs, as I understood her to say, that's what they would open first.
That, yeah, we'd have to look at that.
Right. In that regard, it perhaps may need to come back to the commission for
That might, yes.
approval.
What we're probably trying to avoid is a piece of property with 46 junk cars that never get repaired, or 42 boats that are all,
That's
moldy.
true.
That's probably
But
what
at
we're
the same
trying to
time,
avoid.
If you are doing a repair
Sure.
service and you're keeping it clean, I mean, and we're saying that's not allowed in the gateway overlay.
So we've discussed this before, and I think that the challenge comes in, how do you regulate somebody keeping it clean?
Right,
That's the side. There are some repair shops that operate like a very clean operation, and then there's others that don't necessarily, and no offense to you guys, I don't know. So, but I guess that's why the regulations were put in place, is that an auxiliary function, like there's boat repair on our gateway overlay now, it's just not the primary function of that. Like
Oh, it's
Kramer's.
primary function.
Kramer's have.
Well, Kramer
have
and
repair.
JR.
Yeah,
They're
but they
both-
have sales.
Huh?
They have sales as primary.
Kramer does, yeah, but JR doesn't. He's primary repair.
Was he already existing?
Yeah, he's already existing, yeah.
I think
So where's the
JR's
property again,
outside.
ma'am?
It's at,
Next to Bolorama.
It's where?
Yeah.
Next to Bolorama.
Bolorama,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Bolorama.
Yeah, next to, we got it,
Okay,
next to
that makes
Bolorama
sense.
on
That makes
15th
sense.
Street.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, it's next to Bolorama on
Yes,
15th
ma'am.
Street. Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
So we've been in business for 3 years, but we've been strictly mobile, and we've been out of Parker for those 3 years. But we have grown so much that we now need a storefront. And we've added several employees, so we just want to make sure that we are within our rights before we sign this lease. But I can't guarantee that we're going to do sales within the first 6 months, with, vessel sales. Because I don't know, we've never had a storefront in Panama City. We don't know what our revenue's going to be. So I guess I would speak with you.
Yeah.
And
That might be, I mean, I'm not a city planner, screening the back area with a fence where the boats are gonna be stored that are being worked on. When we're talking about primary function, it's probably visual, it's more
Yeah,
visual.
That's aesthetic.
Okay, because like all the boat, it does have a fenced-in lot in the back. So all of the vessels that we would be working on would be in the back. So to put up a screen to make it look pretty, for the
Sure,
public,
sure,
it's not a
sure.
big deal. But, and we wouldn't have a ginormous sign outside or anything like that, so.
Yeah, so Michael Fuller will work with you on it, it might have to come back to us for us to vote on again.
Okay, great.
Thank you
Yes,
for
I
coming,
will.
good comments. Anyone else on item 6A? Seeing no more comments on item 6A, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I do have a question. The city attorney said that you want to go back and work on this more? Is that what you're asking us to table this?
No, that was me.
Oh, okay.
I want to make sure y'all understand that if y'all pass this today, you will see potentially a lot of these pop in our gateway overlay, and y'all will not be able to stop it, which I believe, I'm not an attorney, but I believe that was the original intent, was y'all could on a case-by-case basis say yes or no. If they meet the conditional use, you will not be able to say no, is what I have been explained over the last week.
Yeah, the
So that's why I'm like, I
county
think we need to
says
table
by
it.
vote, so
Yeah.
it's not
I just want to make sure y'all know what you're voting on.
How's
So
the county's?
the reason I'm.
Counties, you have to vote. Right, I'm sorry.
The reason I'm asking is because I heard when you read the word shall. If we take the word and change it to may, that then does not guarantee it in my little tiny layman's understanding of legal.
I don't know about tiny, but very linguistic.
Would that address the issue?
No, because, and Mr. Fuller really needs to help me here if this continues on as far as an explanation. But essentially, people, when it comes to planning, they need, it can't be just, I don't like it. There needs to be standards for why a particular use is not allowed. And often it is like liquor stores, they have to be so many feet apart or other things. And that's how we've chosen to allow these uses in the overlay district or the gateway district. And so if it meets the spacing requirements and it meets those other conditions, then you can't, I would say it would be, you could, but it would be legally problematic
You can't, but you could.
to just say, no, we're not going to allow it because we just don't like it. That's essentially where it is. So there should be a standard, but compatibility is it's flexible in the sense that you don't know what's compatible until you know what the use is, where the property is going to be, and then what's around it. And then you look at it. And there are objective standards to determine compatibility. And Mr. Fuller, I hope, will address that.
Yeah, that's right. Compatibility, but also, I wanted to point out in the ordinance that would give would provide for, allow the commission to make conditional use permit applications subject to like the Board of Architects review and recommendation. It would also allow for the, let's see, conditions of approval and safeguards may be imposed in order to mitigate potential adverse impacts, and it lists a bunch of items such as special setbacks that can be imposed, fences and walls that can be required, and also liner buildings and structures and/or secondary uses. So it provides for a number of different ways to allow for that particular use, but minimize its impact, if that makes sense.
Michael, is there anybody that we can enlist to help us create those additional steps that are there? Because I think my understanding was we passed this, now these are allowable uses, but we still have to create which conditions are subject to what Mr. Zimmerman is saying.
Yeah.
How long do you think it'll take us to get that kind of in place, and do you need additional assistance to do that?
I think if we could have another month to look at those and really nail down those items, that would probably be helpful. I'll also work with Nevin's team, Mike Burke, to identify some additional criteria that we could impose.
Based upon what I'm hearing, it sounds like we still need a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So the example that was given was the sober houses. They were allowed a conditional use even though we don't currently have a conditional use policy. So given that precedence, could someone petition us for a conditional use without this?
I think we established the conditions.
Yeah, we created the conditional use section because of the sober houses. So this fits.
Correct. So it wasn't, we created it for them to approve them?
Yes.
The framework was
framework.
put into the land development code for sober houses. This extends the ability to grant conditional uses to stuff in the gateway.
Okay.
I think it was 2,500 feet, I think is what it's between, something like that.
It is something like that, yeah.
And it is.
So do we need to have all of that in place before we approve? And if so, why?
Well, I think we already have a section
We
that
do have a
deals
conditional
with
use section.
conditional use
This is
section.
to try to add what uses can go in the conditional use, right? Is
I'll
that
give you,
what-
I think what
Which
just
I've
came
got- I wanna have
forward is a
question-
good
conversation
example.
about.
So let's say we were entertaining repair centers primarily in the gateway overlay. The conditions in which Michael might create and bring to us might be, a review by the Architectural Review Board, a requirement for privacy fence storage, so it couldn't be visually there. There could be additional things that would be per different use that might be required depending upon what it is. Am I
Yeah.
incorrect in that?
No,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. And that is what we currently don't have a framework for. So if we passed it and someone came tomorrow with a conditional use, there's nothing on the books, what would happen?
Yeah, we couldn't grant one.
Okay.
But this proposal gives you 300 feet from an existing use, 100 feet from another another conditional use if it were to be approved. This, what we have before us, right?
Yes, and maybe we look at that spacing requirement again.
Okay.
So why, when this all originated, there was only a couple of things that were being requested to be added to the conditional use permitting? And it seems like the list has ballooned.
Yes.
So I'm
We have
just curious, is that for legal reasons or is that for being request
No,
from this board?
no, not for legal reasons. It's just a matter of policy. We know that some of these additional uses that were listed were some things that we've heard over the past couple of years that we have plenty of, like gas stations. You know, that's something we have a lot of, and that we would like to kind of control that use in the gateway.
I think the same thing goes with I think self-storage facilities came from a member of the board. You know, pharmacies and dispensaries really has to do with, you know, cannabis dispensaries, which has popped up kind of everywhere, but you can't regulate them different than you can pharmacies. So creating spacing between them kind of keeps with an oversaturation from being in one place.
Why did it make it on the
But we need
list?
pharmacies over here.
I think it came as a request from, all of these, if I'm not mistaken, they came from at least one of us seeing
Exactly.
That's right.
something from that. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
None from me. No additional uses for me. I'd like to take some of them out, as a matter of fact, if we could. So the ones in red, I think if you're living in the middle part of Panama, on the commercial side or the west side, you might have some wish not to have some of these because they're already there. But remember, the gateway the gateway is a large coverage of Panama City. I'd love to have a discussion about bringing that back and knocking that down. Way too much in my opinion, but all the development that can happen from 231 down Harrison Avenue, down MLK, all of that is going to be pretty
11th Street.
restricted. And a grocery store or a drive-through, I have concerns on the formula-based business because you can make something look good even though it's a drive-through. Or I was surprised to see that there was car washes were on the chopping block for conditional uses for I figured somebody'd be a cheerleader for those.
Car washes.
But at the same time, I just would like for us to maybe think about not being as restrictive on adding new ones. For example, the pharmacy, the weed shop, I get it, but it also hurts the pharmacy side, and we might need some expansion on that over here.
Well, the way that this reads, it just can't be within 300 feet of each other, so.
But it's a stopping point that, there's a lot of, the national companies, which I think I saw some dialogue back and forth on Facebook about keeping them out. But we need national companies, and we can make them look, they can conform to us just as much as we need them to or want them to.
But that is exactly the point. Like, without having a conditional use process, there is no mechanism to make them conform to what we need or
Okay.
want.
But that's more of a look, not a use.
That's exactly what's created with this.
Okay, but, okay.
So without that, you can't send it to the Architectural Review Board to say, and this is not uncommon. Lynn Haven does the same thing. Why does the Whataburger there look different than any other Whataburger that exists in
Okay,
Northwest
but does that fall
Florida?
under conditional use, or does that fall under facade and landscaping and appearance?
Conditional use allows you to, like formula-based business, and this is a common thing across the state. It doesn't mean that a national chain can't go into the area. It just means that it has to be unique from their standardized form. And so that could be conformance with colors, anything. And it's very important in historic districts, which is what the support that you're seeing from the public is. Do you want to have just the standard, and I love the Costas and everyone, but do you want to just have another McDonald's on Beck Avenue or in the middle of the streetscaping of Harrison Avenue? That's really what it's meant to, is to allow them to have the tools to say, let us help shape this, whether it's a repair shop, whether it's self-storage, whether it's any of these. This is actually opening the door for other things to happen. Some of these uses currently, you can't do it at all, under any condition.
Right.
And so we're adding flexibility by allowing this, but we're also taking and acknowledging, do we need 4 gas stations on one singular corner? Because
The market should say yes or no to that.
well, then that's anti-Dover Coal, because Dover Coal said that even in the planning that we approved, like, there's certain things that you can only have a commercial use on one corner of the 4 in neighborhood residential. And so we've already gone down this part of trying to help shape the aesthetics of the city, and that is really what's trying to happen here. Every idea is a good idea and a bad idea at the same time.
Right.
So this allows us to take the nuanced approach to helping these things come to our city, but in a way that's not detrimental to the overall aesthetics and the impact on residents.
All right, so to make sure I understand, if I want to make Robbie's ice cream shop downtown, I don't need to do anything, except go through the process. I want to do, Ben and Jerry's with a drive-through that's on end cap. I've got to go through a conditional use permit because it's a drive-through and it's a national chain, or because it's a drive-through?
So that's a great example. So it could be both. It could be something having to do with the aesthetics, but it could also have to, what are you trying to create on Harrison Avenue? Do you want it more walkable, or do you want people driving in, driving out? Like, so that's the nuanced approach to drive-throughs, and why you see some historic downtowns say, hey, drive-through's not really a compatible use for this, because this is a pedestrian zone. Now, 23rd Street, that's not gonna be an issue. There's drive-throughs down all
But
of
it's in the
23rd.
gateway.
It is, so there would be an additional review. They would have a conditional use. Maybe it meets those criteria, it doesn't. But that's the point Michael's trying to make with, hey, we may need another month, because right now we don't know what those conditions are.
But these
Like,
conditional uses obviously are being granted. The MLK Highway 77, we just got a Dutch Brothers there. That's a formula-based business. What are we currently doing to allow it in some gateways but not in other gateways? How is that being determined?
There's no restriction, I think, right now.
That's right. Sure.
Currently, there is no restriction on a formula-based business or national chain type
So
business.
if we were to approve this that includes the formula-based business, then we're going to preclude their ability to do that on 77, because that entire corridor inside the city is a gateway overlay. They would have to come through this additional
That's correct.
step if we leave that
That's
in
my
there.
concern, is the additional step. Is, if it's difficult already and we give them one more step, I want to make sure, okay, how about, if we're going to follow the path of, say, facade and colors and all that, I don't want to make it so it's too restrictive or too cumbersome to figure out, or how do you meet, who's in charge? Do you get a point for blue and this color, we got to make it so they qualify, and we don't get to determine yes or no.
Yeah, I agree that someone investing wants a surety of their investment.
Exactly.
Right? And so there is some surety of, like, there's a program that I can understand before I start investing. The side of that is we could build a cathedral process that is like so confusing, and you got to have 22% brick at the bottom of your side, and it turns into like this cathedral that no one ever understands. One of the if you look at a spectrum of enforcement, one of the strongest examples of it, of conditional uses and overlays like this, is actually in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And their McDonald's actually has like terracotta shingles because they want to look like the neighborhood.
Right.
So people do certain things, but once the standard has been met, people start. I think they start adhering to it because typically people want to have the nicer invest. Like I want to adhere to this nice stamp. I'm coming here because of the standard of excellence, not because it's the cheapest place.
And I'm all for that. I just want to make sure that the new guy coming into town, my competition's right there, but I can't get here because I don't have the right color scheme, and they're there. So I just want to make sure we don't make it too cumbersome.
We started out very narrow, and others of us added to it, which now makes it more cumbersome. And I don't know that another month is going to address what perhaps is the issue. Because we can look, as I just said, the 77 corridor has a precedent of formula-based businesses. If we move forward and leave this as a conditional use, maybe that's not what we want in historic downtown Panama City. So we're not making any designations, right? We've got a historic district overlay coming as well. So, you know, I just want us to be clear about whether we really intend for this to move forward. And I'd like to hear from the colleagues, from my colleagues, as to whether that is the case.
I can support as we are today. So if we're just looking to allow check cashing places and things like that, I think what momentum we have on 98, I would like to continue that momentum with what we have. So if we're willing to entertain a variety of other conditional uses to kind of create a more mixture of things that we can allow and create more tools for the staffing, I'm fully supportive as what it is. But if we're just looking to allow specifically, you know, check cashing places, bails bonds, and those things across the entire city, I do have concerns that you know, that could very well we could end up with 3 or 4 check cashing places in St. Andrews, where right now we already have several on I think between Dodges. I think there's a standalone that's there too. You know, and for me, you know, there could be a complete disagreement, you know, with this, and that's okay. Check cashing places specifically, I feel like they're predatory, and that is just my philosophy on it. And I would like to continue those regulations that we have in place,
So I don't understand.
at least in this area.
I don't understand then, because if we move forward with this, then you're likely going to get more check cashing places.
And the only reason why I'm supportive of moving forward is because of these other uses that we can create further parameters on, such as gas stations, such as, you know, formula-based businesses in historic districts. It's the other tools that allow Michael to create other parameters that that allow certain things to happen when certain conditions are met.
Yeah, so the problem I have is kind of like what you're touching on is the check cashing. I also believe that you know, kind of I believe that they are predatory, and there's some other uses in here that I'd like to see pulled out, and then I would be supportive of it, because I do think that, yeah, there's some there needs to be some wiggle room, but to me, there was a couple of use cases that we were gonna look at here, and then it just ballooned. And I'm not happy with the ballooning. I'd rather see a lot of this stuff get ripped out, and let's just address what the actual issue was that we were trying to address when this initially came to
And
us.
I think there's been some couple of recommendations that we can take different streets with different parameters. And so if that's a method that we would like to do, I can be supportive of that.
Yeah, me too.
So that we can see these guys.
Is that allowable?
It is from that. But
I
one of
was
the
going to suggest, based on y'all's conversation, what if we were to divide up the gateway into different, and that way, you know, a formula-based business could be allowable, you know, no conditional use, whatever, along MLK Boulevard, but it wouldn't be allowed on Beck Avenue or something like that.
That's exactly the thing, because what I've seen over the last 5 years, the gateway overlay, while it does create some cumbersome, it is the reason why we're getting investment in 98 specifically. If it was not for the gateway overlay, we would have never seen the toy box go away and it'd be replaced with a beautiful office building. I mean, so the gateway overlay is working, you know, but perhaps there needs to be a more nuanced approach, different neighborhoods, you know, different things for different people. I mean, I can be, you know, fully supportive of that. But, you know, I'm personally happy with how it's working in St. Andrews. Would I like to see further uses and more things like formula-based business, just like you gave an example, Mike? Yes, I would. And I think that the community abroad in St. Andrews would support that specifically. Do we need more gas stations in St. Andrews? I think the community would be resounding no. So I can be supportive of going through neighborhood by neighborhood, similar how we did with the neighborhood planning process to get feedback on what we want to see in our own neighborhood.
And to your point about check cashing being predatory, I agree with that. I think all these businesses should be looked at so that we don't get a proliferation in one area that creates a vibe, if you will, for that. And I agree that that's what we're trying to avoid. But I also agree, or also believe that just as we saw downtown with local folk coming forward to invest in the neighborhood, that I don't want to preclude that from happening as well. And working with our planning department, you know, let's help people determine where the best place is for what they're trying to do, if that's allowable. For instance, the business that's here today, what they've picked out, you know, do we do anything with someone that says, nope, you can't go there, and we send them on their way, or do we work with them if they are trying to find a specific
We try to,
location?
if a particular parcel doesn't allow for it, I mean, we try to help them maybe identify other parcels. We don't, I like to think that we always try to help someone get to yes. But sometimes it's just not possible, but we try to work with them, we do.
You have to remind us that, you know, in development, commercial real estate fills in the gaps of what residential needs. Okay, that's, you know, for example, downtown is backwards. We would normally have built residential and the commercial would have fallen in behind it, okay? So all of what we're talking about is restricting commercial real estate opportunities. And for full transparency, I'm worried about my side over here right now, and we need that commercial coming down. And once the residential shows up, and we're waiting on that. So let's say we get 200 apartments in and around downtown, okay? And we get 100 apartments or however many over on MLK at that corner. Now we need commercial to come in and follow. And what we're going to do right now is restrict. We don't know what commercial that is. My concern is if we start adding them now, we don't know. To Brian's point, if we pulled some out and we're restrictive on things they had to do, never mind the business, but they had to do, if they can't, if their template won't work for Chick-fil-A, they have a model, and won't go there, and they can't go there. That's on them, not on us. But instead of saying a drive-through restaurant. Okay, and that area needs that because that's what the development is saying at the time.
Why don't we look at doing this based upon our districts?
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
And try to come up with that, and, you know, and maybe over the next thing. But I think the only thing we've got in urgency is I think there's something on MLK Boulevard, so maybe we can give instruction for Michael and staff to address that first, and then subsequently. I mean, I don't mind finding the best ordinances for formula-based business in historic districts and providing that to Michael, and if it can only be implemented on Beck Avenue, fine. I mean, like, I think that's fine.
How long do y'all need for that?
I mean, I could be done in a month.
How long do y'all need
for
for
me?
it?
But
We may need a little bit longer than that.
60?
I think we could probably do it in 60 days.
I motion we table this for 60 days for the meeting after that.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Any discussion?
Just point of clarification with a little background information. We do have a contract where the city has piece property and has entered into a contract to sell it to Ms. Blue Brown. And the due diligence date runs maybe February 8th. It is to be closed in February. We have not had an opportunity to talk to her as far as extending it because, you know, from the city's perspective, we'd probably be happy to extend it until we can get this resolved. Because right now, the way this started was that there are certain uses prohibited in the gateway overlay. The piece of property is within the gateway overlay, and this was a path to allow this particular use as a conditional use. What has developed is that that's a good idea, and so there's a lot of other uses. Some are prohibited uses that would be allowed. Others on this list are not prohibited uses today, but it would become allowed only if there's a conditional use. So it's kind of working both ways in this. My only point is the table is fine, but I would like to come back at the next meeting and give you a report on Ms. Blue Brown, and if with your consent that we could extend it if she's agreeable, we can follow up on that.
So I'll modify my motion to include the authorization for the city attorney to negotiate an extension of the sale
Thank you.
of the property.
Thank you.
I'd like to, we've entered a contract in something that we couldn't do. And now we've got this business on hold and has been for several months. And this is not good business, not how you do business. And then to extend, understanding that this business owner had a deadline that she told us about when she started. And now we're beyond that. I don't think extending is the option for another 2 months, given the business constraints that she shared with us when we agreed to move forward with this. And so I'd like us to entertain how we could move forward with that without asking her to wait and to work inside this due diligence period, because she's been waiting on the city.
Are you asking
Yeah,
for
with-
bails bonds to be allowed on MLK Boulevard as just for that road?
For that business, or for that one singular
For that
business?
use
or-
on-
This is a unique situation because she's literally moving 100 feet,
Yeah.
200 feet. She's already existing as a building.
Yeah, I'm not
just
arguing.
right outside of it.
I'm asking, is that what you're asking for? You're asking for just that road to be addressed, for bails bonds specifically?
Yes.
That or that specific, this one contract, with all,
I don't think we
Well,
can do it by contract.
I think
she's
that
asking-
has to be, we're kind of muddying up all the motions. Could we do, we have a motion on the table in a second, where we have a motion to defer 60 days and give the attorney to bring it back an update. We've got you wanting to do some of the bail bonds place. I think we need to break them up because that was the original idea with this, was to do 12 different motions. And
Yeah, so I'm supportive of what Brian's motion is to do that, but I want to come back to what Janice is saying, see if we can't address that specifically.
Yeah, I'd like to leave that out of your motion.
from a contractual standpoint, she did sign a contract subject to not being able to happen. And so that's not a guarantee that she gets to, I mean, it's no fun sitting there and your contract gets shut down on a boat. And so from that vantage point, I would say maybe we talk to her and let her understand, we're trying to get her home. But I don't know that we can do that today, but I think we could get her home, if she could wait, if she could ride with us maybe one more month. Because I'd be willing to make a motion, that we pull that out and say yes to that contract.
Well, point of order, we do have a motion that we
Right.
need to address.
Right, yes.
Then
Yeah.
turn to this
Right,
discussion.
right.
we
Okay.
have a motion on the table that's been amended, the 60 days addition. Do you amend your second on that, Robbie?
Yes, sir.
What is the amendment?
The amendment is to give Nevin direction to bring back an update in 30 days.
Yes.
And to negotiate with,
And to just authorize him to negotiate, it doesn't mean that they have it. that he has it.
With whom?
The lady that.
The lady that's under contract, he's moved it to 30 days instead of 60.
Okay, would you repeat the motion?
the motion was to table this item for 60 days and to amend, the amendment was to authorize the city attorney to negotiate with Ms. Brown Blue and bring back a report.
So we then talked about making it a separate motion.
Oh, you wanted that's what you meant. I thought you meant the.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'll modify my motion to go back to just the 60 days.
Okay.
Second.
Could
I'll
I,
second that.
Just a second, okay.
Question, if we pass this first, can we then do what we're talking about doing for the other contract?
Mr. Burke is going to provide us a path forward here.
Contract extraordinary, huh?
Yeah, he is, Mike Burke's my partner. He works with Mr. Fuller and does all things planning.
Mike Burke, City Attorney's Office. A couple of goals we're trying to accomplish here today. Let me start with, I believe we're trying to, is it brown blue? Is that the? Blue brown, sorry. This originally started out, I believe, as a change to the gateway overlay that was limited to the bail bonds issue. And then we did the things that we've been talking about here today. So my suggestion would be a couple of little steps right here. And that first one would be to go back, approve the ordinance today by striking everything except for the bail bonds. Okay, that way you solve that. The next motion after that would be then to bring back an ordinance within 60 days that addresses the issues that Michael Fuller suggested, which was, and I think it's, when you look at the map there, what you guys are talking about by doing this by a district, an MLK gateway overlay, a Harrison Avenue, a St. Andrews, makes a lot of sense because we do end up broad brushing too much. So I would say your first motion would be to approve the ordinance, but only for bail bonds. Then a second motion would be to direct the planning staff to come back with all those other uses that you addressed today, subject to the districts.
My only concern, Michael, is if a bail bond place pops up on Beck Avenue, I'm gonna get waylaid by the residents.
You still have to go through a conditional use, and you've also got what is a pending ordinance argument, because you're going to have passed an ordinance, but you're also going to have made a motion to change that ordinance to address those things by
So are you saying we
district.
just can't address it on MLK Boulevard in this today?
Oh, you absolutely, yes, you could say that on, if you'll define the area to be, MLK from what, Mike will have to give you the distances on it. But if you wanted to approve it as a conditional use, limited to, it needs to be a reasonably large area of, it can't be limited to 123 Main Street, MLK. We need to give it.
To 11th Street.
So my problem is we're doing all this finagling over a bail bonds place on MLK.
Yeah.
Selling a city asset that could be something else, changing all these things to accommodate one person who's negotiating with the city to buy an asset, to putting a business there that we don't even allow. And we're allowing them to put pressure on us to finagle and spend all this money and all this discussion to work out business that we don't even allow there. I'll be clear, before I spent $12 million downtown, if a bail bonds place was down there, I would have never put a dime. And that's what we're gonna have. You're setting the condition for other people to invest money in areas of town. I have studied towns all over the country. I think the idea of allowing these uses, certain ones in here, and finagling, and us being pressured to deliver the city
There's
asset.
no pressure.
This feels like pressure to me. I would love to just wait 60 days. She can wait. I don't think it's fair to put pressure on us that we have
She has not
to.
put any pressure on
Then what are
us.
we talking about up here and rearranging or making the sausage up here on the dais sounds crazy. We're making the sausage up here on the dais. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I get it. I haven't had $12 million to invest. But I do know that there are people who live and work in this community, in this city, who want to do investments. And so there's no way other than what we're doing with our Incremental Development Alliance. And so we've got someone who has said, I'm ready to pay cash. This is my particular instance. I'll work with you on the ideas that have been presented, what we can do this, that, or the other. And so in my view, what I'm trying to do is get people who live here to invest in these neighborhoods.
Agreed. That's what I want too. And I have presented, hey, let's break the parcel off and sell the back half and all these things in an effort to spur on more things and this not be. But so I'm here.
Was that even presented to the?
And that's what I'd love to
Yes.
have. So to me, I worry that we are creating unintended consequences in other parts of town that we're going to say, oh my gosh, and that we are slicing and dicing this ordinance up here, and that's not how I think the organization should operate. I'm happy to.
So where does it stop? You presented some ideas. Did they even get delivered and presented to?
I have no idea.
To the potential business owner?
That's why you don't write ordinances for one property.
I have no, oh, John, the question.
Can't do
for me?
No, I was
Yeah.
asking, because staff, because I can't go and negotiate that on behalf of the city. That's not my role.
No, if the motion prevails, then we'd notify Ms. Blue Brown that that she could go ahead and buy the property, but when she buys it, she won't know whether or not she could locate a Bales Bonds location business there. So she would have the option of canceling the contract prior to the end of the due diligence, which I believe is February the
Or we could
8th.
extend it if she wanted to.
So
If she
we're-
wants to extend it, then we could do that.
We're also muddying up the whole update on unsolicited offer item down the line too. So I would much rather us stick to this ordinance on this motion and then us do a workshop that we're going to discuss later as soon as possible on all the unsolicited offers that we have. That to me is a whole 2-hour meeting where we get to discuss those individual things. So I'd like to move forward with the ordinance that we have, either tabling it 60 days or moving forward with it. That to me is the discussion. And then later on, we talk about unsolicited offers and we workshop
He
those.
raised his new hand. Alan, I don't know who he is, but he is not moving his hand.
It hopefully is very relevant to the conversation we're having. Yes, sir.
Well, then you need to allow the other gentleman to come up.
And you're welcome to speak too. Yes, sir.
James Baker, 3036 Game Farm Road. As a new small business owner, I've been kind of waiting, like I would say somewhere around like 4 months, knowing that this was coming. My stuff is on the special use permit. I've already like pre-submitted. We've already went under lease for the building, already done some construction work on the building, on the inside as far as renovation, to a point where we have a lot of money in this, and we're kind of just waiting, thinking that we would open on February 2nd, which is kind of a short time frame for the last few kind of expensive things that need to be done to the building. And as a super new small business, if we just keep tabling this, we're at a point where we've already signed lease, have insurance, everything. We either have to back out and start all over again and all this money is wasted, or we can continue forward and be a super successful business that's going to also bring a lot of in and out clientele that would be walking around downtown, spending money, getting lunch while their services are getting done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, what is the path forward to get the two businesses that we're here today moving forward, but us having time to look at this gateway overlay for each one of our districts without making the sausage up here in the dais?
Time to earn your money.
We could go ahead and adopt the ordinance with the understanding that we would immediately come back within 60 days with further changes to it, is one way. I think Mr. Burke also presented another way that we could exclude every other use and item in the ordinance except for bail bonds and window tinting. Again, with the understanding that we would come back in 60 days with an ordinance to further amend it. Because right now, we don't have the framework in place to grant a conditional use in the gateway. So I think if you were to adopt the ordinance, you'd adopt the framework to allow conditional uses in the gateway. And then you can say, for now, there's only 2 uses that could potentially be granted a conditional use: bail bonds and window tinting.
And that would be citywide.
Yep. It would be citywide, yeah. And then I don't know if the pending ordinance would come into play. That would further allow you to to restrict those uses?
There is case law, but there's not statutory law on what's called the pending ordinance doctrine. So if you have the city commission that has directed staff to prepare a planning ordinance that does X, Y, and Z, or prohibits a particular use or allows a particular use, then while it's pending, as long as it's a reasonable time, you can instruct staff not to process any applications that are contrary to that ordinance that you have asked to bring back to you. So it acts like a moratorium on that. It's not something that you rely on very often, and it is, you need specific direction from the city on that. It can't last for very long, but it would date back to today's date, and then these two uses, though, would be allowed to proceed maybe in this area. It's not, obviously, it's not black and white.
So we open ourselves up to litigation and litigation costs and unintended consequences potentially.
Potentially, you would get a request for other conditional uses. Staff would say pending ordinance, which is supported in case law to keep people from rushing to meet some type of deadline. But yes, there's no clear answer on whether or not the pending ordinance doctrine would hold up ultimately.
Yeah, and somebody who is very well advised legally would be able to understand that right off the bat. And somebody who is not very well advised legally, which is, a lot of the small business owners I'm not saying they can't afford a lawyer, I'm just saying is that they don't necessarily are tracking everything that's happening. I don't like that, because then it does seem like there could be a bum rush, and then they find out from Michael that, oh no, there's a pending, it just sends the wrong message in my opinion.
So we are instructing staff to come back in 60 days with conditional uses. If someone within that time comes forward, we say, here's the process for being considered as a conditional use, not just pending pending ordinance, but here's where you address your concern with having your business or industry included as a conditional use. Because that is what we're saying to do. We're going to take 60 days to hone this up.
Yeah, I think Nevin was addressing if we passed it. If we passed the ordinance today, then we could also say, well, don't do anything, Michael, and just tell people. What I'd rather do is just table it, so that way there is no potential dangling carrot that might be there, and not also put that extra pressure on staff. They could do that anyway, but at least now they don't have people coming in saying, well, they passed it. What I'd like to see, and I think you've heard this, Michael, is I think you've heard we'd like to see this broken out by ward. And I think that makes a lot of sense, because our wards have different needs and different almost personalities to the wards, right?
Or even neighborhoods, because Ward 2 is huge. So one use for Ward 2 would not work.
Yeah, I'm not saying
Right.
it has to be at the ward level. I'm just saying that I think this needs to be broken out. The gateway overlays need to be broken up, because what may make sense in one part of the city may not make sense in another.
That's right.
Especially when we start looking at St. Andrews and downtown Panama City, because we're trying to make these places historical in nature and really protect the specialness that we have there. So I'd like us to call the question.
So we have a motion on the table to the last 60 days. We have a second as well. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
No.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Just point of clarification, I am to contact Ms. Blue Brown, and if she desires.
The amendment was withdrawn.
Oh, the amendment.
We only
was
have a
withdrawn.
table for 60 days.
Thank you. That's
You're
why I
welcome.
brought it up. Okay.
So if I may I entertain that to request that legal be instructed to reach out to Ms. Brown Blue to follow up on the contract in terms of the potential for an extension, but also noting the mayor's proposal about a possible option of splitting the parcel, I think is what was involved, that be reviewed with her as well.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Yeah, I'm fine. Let me go ahead and
That was
read.
an hour.
Let me go ahead, if you don't mind, and read the title. We've already had a first reading, but this will be like another first reading. Then when it comes back, it'll be primed for adoption. Another reading of ordinance number 3294, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City Commission of the City of Panama City, amending Chapter 102 Administrative Processes, Section 10240 Conditional Use Permits, Chapter 104 Zoning District, Section 104-66 Gateway Overlay, and Chapter 116 Definitions of the Unified Land Development Code regarding prohibited uses and conditional uses in the Gateway Overlay District, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, codification, and effective date. Thank you.
6B?
All right. Item 6B is consideration to conduct the second and final reading to adopt ordinance 3296, amending Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code, Protection of Public and Private Rights. Relevant background information is enclosed in your packet. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services that the City Commission adopt ordinance number 3296 after conducting the second and final reading. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, this is a public hearing. If you wish to speak about item 6B, please come to the podium. Anyone on 6B? Seeing none, closing public comments. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
He stepped out, Madam
Oh,
Clerk.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Mr. Zuma.
I'd like to read the title of ordinance number 3296 has been adopted. An ordinance amending Chapter 17, Protection of Public and Private Rights, separating into articles for easier interpretation, providing for definitions, providing for a more streamlined special events application process, providing which holidays special events are prohibited on, substituting the Quality of Life Department, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the severability of any part of this ordinance declared invalid, and providing an immediately effective date.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, audience participation. This is your opportunity to come forward and speak about anything on the agenda, on the remaining agenda, for 3 minutes. When you come to the podium, please give your name and your address, but also specify which agenda item you are speaking on. Good morning.
Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue, 6A. I know we took a long time on this already.
It's on the remaining agenda items. We're past 6A.
Yeah. You supposed to be in down one on this.
On the
3 minutes.
remaining agenda items, yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. That's on the item, what I'm talking about.
From 7 down.
No, it's 6A.
Yeah, we're past 6A, yes, sir. We voted on that a few minutes
I
ago.
know you had passed it. I can't speak on it still.
Yes, sir, it's the remaining agenda items. The remaining agenda items. You already spoke about 6A earlier.
Yes, I don't understand that. I want to bring an answer question to y'all where y'all could listen, understand.
All right, give it to
I
us.
think-
Give us the 6A.
So if the I'm just saying, every commissioner in every district that they ought to have a choice of what that they go put on in their area. Because MLK is an area that the state destroyed. And that property's not that big. And then you ain't gonna be able to put too much on those properties unless folks behind that property sells out to them, where you put something in there in that area really decent to be put in. So I just want y'all to think about that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comments related to any agenda items going forward? Yes, sir. Good morning.
My name is Benjamin Jerikinis. I'm at 4906 West 19th Court. And the topic I wanted to talk about is actually not on any of the agenda today.
Yeah, those items we talk about at town hall meetings.
Town hall meetings, okay. Well,
Jared, can you give me my business cards? We'll set up a meeting. Happy to meet with you.
all right, thank you.
Try to keep all the topics about things we're voting on today. Yes, sir. Anyone else on the remaining agenda items? Seeing none, closing public comments. Mr. Hughes, you're up with your spending.
Yes, thank you. Hope everybody enjoyed their holiday. We are at a place right now where I think we're about to invest in the largest investment that we've ever made as a city, or potentially set up for that. And I think that we should start to consider how prioritizing our spending starting today, and I think, personally, I think we should suspend all unnecessary expenses right now because we need money. And I believe that if we were to do that, anything that's in play, we're going to leave that. Anything that's been approved, leave that. But, for example, today we're looking at a paving machine that is not $1 million. It's $5 million, and we're tying up three or four different departments of money, and that's money that we could set aside and probably pay for all the utilities on the upland, and that's money that we wouldn't have to borrow. And it's not necessary that we get a paving machine, because it's not necessary that we get into the paving business, but right now we don't need a paving machine. Things of that nature, I'm not talking about, we voted on, we need garbage trucks, we get garbage trucks. But I just thought that I wanted to bring that to our attention, but not necessarily take any action, but I think it is, I haven't seen anybody stop and pause yet at City Hall and say, wait a minute, hey guys, we need to think about this. Whether we have a partner or not in the future remains to be unseen, but we need to plan as though we're not going to, because right now that is not in front of us, and what is paying for the entire marina to happen. And it's not fair to us, it's not fair to them, to the public, it's not fair to staff for us to keep trying to spend money, and then at the end we're going to go, wow, man, this is a lot of money, I don't know where we're going to get this, but we could have saved some money along the way. And we don't spend in blocks of $500. We spend in blocks of $5 to $10 million. And that's easy to save some money when you're doing it that way. So I just thought that I wanted to pass that along to y'all. It's a thought that I had over the holiday, and it would be a step in fiscal responsibility if we decided to take a pause. But again, just wanted to throw that out there, and if you want to have some discussion about it, great. If not, I'm going to sleep well tonight too.
Ravi, if I might make a suggestion, I think it's a prudent point to point out spending, and so one of the things that I've had a lot of conversations on is one-time expenditures versus ongoing expenditures. One of the things I would be incredibly that is not incurring more reoccurring expenses, because that's what continues this fall. That could look like hiring freeze on positions that are in specifically staffed in City Hall, but that still leaves boots on the ground, the ability to get right-of-way maintenance, those kind of things. So I'm open to ideas. The one-time expenses a lot of times have grant funding or things like that involve them, as you've seen, but the reoccurring expenses are real, and that's what creates budget creep for us, and they add up to millions upon millions upon millions of dollars every year. And ultimately, that's been my largest concern in our budgetary process is we have no free cash flow, we have no delta, and
I don't think we have a stopping point, to be honest with you. We dream it up, we figure out how to spend it and go.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but, okay, let me ask you this, do you consider the pledging of money from those different departments over the next 5 years, that's a reoccurring expense to me?
Reoccurring expense,
That 100%, now we can gauge what it's gonna cost, it's gonna really not be $1.5 million, it's gonna be $5.5 million.
yeah.
Okay, but at the same time,
Which three departments?
let's see, well, you got the 2 CRAs, Downtown North CRA, you got the Environmental Fund and the Housing Department. 4, so I'm sorry, 2 departments, 2 districts. And, and if we weren't looking to have to spend think about spending a lot of money, it's the tying up of that money that, for 5 years, we may need that. And if we just take a pause and say we might not, we can always come back and do that. But right now may not be the time. And you're right. When you're putting it out and you know you're going to get it back, that's an easier expense to do. But right now we don't know what we're getting back in terms of putting that money out for a paving machine right now when we need the money over here, or what's it going to be next? Is it something to hang trees with, or whatever it is? Is it necessary? And I think that's really it, whether it's a paving machine or not. Is it necessary? And to your point, if it hadn't been hired for 6 months and it's been authorized and ready to go, why not put a stop point on a job opening, something like that? So again, and really had no idea, wanting to take no action unless y'all wanted to, but just to have a conversation. But I like your ideas.
Yeah, I'll add that as an elected official, this is a very odd job in that, you see these large items come through the agenda and you're like, whoa. But they've done all the steps to validate the purchase, and they've done the studies of how long a truck should last, and it still just feels like a ton of money. And maybe that's just because it has extra zero, because like at history class, whenever a stove goes out, they go, it needs to be replaced. I go ahead and replace it. But it does feel different being up here than in a normal business. And I don't really know how to quantify how to take that from a problem to a solution. Of just like, this is different than running a business. It feels different.
Well, I think for me, defining what the government should do and shouldn't do, I think it is a good start. And I've been on record of saying, housing and roads, that's not in our wheelhouse. I have made some modifications to my thought on housing, and I have not made modifications on roads. That is not something that we should do, in my opinion. But you're right, Alan. It's like, how do I? 2 commas, okay, we're used to 2 commas, but when there's, a 1 and a 0 and a 0 in front of the first comma, or a 75, it gets a little, it's taunting.
So I think what you're also probably running into is something that I ran into when I first got into office, which is the budget cycle is the 800-pound gorilla. And so you can say, hey, I don't want to do this thing, or I want to do this thing, and unless you have reserves or some way to pay for it, it doesn't move because it's not a part of the budget cycle. And so it causes frustration, right? I mean, there's things like I remember talking with Mark McQueen and a little bit with Jonathan on what can we do to be more efficient, what can we do, and once we have approved a budget that is that goes into the next year, we've approved them to do all the things that they need to do or want to do, and a lot of times we've restricted what they want to do because they don't have enough money to do it, and that's okay, right? That's part of our job being up here. It's when you're in the middle of that cycle that you're wanting to affect change and wanting to move stuff around, and it becomes very frustrating because maybe the prior commission has already approved it. In this case, moving forward, we approved the budget that we have now. So I would recommend that, that you look at the budget, and that's really where, in discussions with staff, that's really where we have our most impact on how we spend money.
That's true.
And because we get inaugurated in May, you know, we're in the middle of
You
a
don't get
budget
to speak
cycle.
into
So
the first one.
so you kind of just don't, the first one
is
is
a
just
loss.
Learn along the way,
first
and then
one's
you
a
jump
loss.
back in.
and the last one you get to mold and shape it, and then you don't see
Take care
it
of
because
the
you know whether you're going out or you know what have you, but it's the last one you don't get to to see the fruition of that. You know?
So I have supplied, you know, we've been talking about this budgetary process going in next year, what our delta is, what we need to go through. I did supply the team, the chartered members, with a framework that could consistently provide us with the improvements that you're talking about. It is true, right now we approve a budget, it operates that year. But in a common business practice, we would be looking at monthly, how do we improve? Like weekly, how do we improve? Daily, how do we improve? And so that really requires a continuous evaluation process all through the year. And so hopefully you guys will be seeing that so we can have some discussions upon, you know, maybe a better framework than just waiting until there's an 800-pound gorilla in the room and then we're trying to wrestle it, you know, with a month. And we've either got to pull a lever on raising taxes or we got to, you know, create a hatchet to cut spending. And that's not fun for anybody. But if we had some incremental progress that we could do all along the way, I think that would go a lot farther.
So that's why last year I had called for us to have strategic planning sessions that would go hand in hand with that to better say, hey, these are our pillars, these are our priorities, and so this is where we want to see the money go. These are the necessary things, to your point. This is what we are deciding is necessary, because honestly, that's what this board does, is decides what's necessary and what's not. The other thing I'll point out is that we should be coming up on the service delivery budget, right? Yeah, okay, all right. I've been getting a warm fuzzy on that one here.
That's switching, that's the type of budgeting, right?
And it's not, yeah, it's just more of it makes it so much easier for the public to understand the budget. It makes it so much easier for us to understand the budget. If you want a good example of that, Pensacola does a service delivery budget, and you can look at, say, you know, PCR, and you can see their entire budget. This is how much money PCR has. This is how much money the fire department has. This is how much money the police department has. And there's no muddling or not that any of this was intentional, but there's just different ways to handle that, right? And like some cities will say, hey, all of the labor is in one category, and so therefore I can't see how much, you know, the fire department has. And I keep saying the fire department because he's sitting right there, but not picking on the fire department, but you get my point, right? We don't, in those cities, you don't know how much the fire department labor is. You just don't, because it's all mixed in together into the big labor pool.
Right.
Whereas by organizing the budget by service, by the services that we deliver to our citizens, it makes it a lot easier to say, well, we're going to rack and stack, and these are our priorities, and so this is where the money should be tilted to and should be going. And businesses do this.
Yeah.
So, and also, you know, cities and some counties do it too. I just think it's a better way. So that's my point.
I wanted to say that because in case I voted no on some stuff. Now y'all know why. It's time we just slow it down, I think. So,
I'd like for one of our virtual workshops to be about the current state of our budget. And then we can all have a conversation that we're trying to have in bits and pieces in these meetings. Each of us is operating with a different understanding of where we are. And so if we make one of our virtual workshops to just talk about our current budget, where we are, and what the state of the city is. As I understand it, it's not about what we have right now, but what we won't have in a year if we continue the track that we've had of using reserve funds. And that's, you know, that's a big
I mean, to your point, we started a year off, owing, we're gonna have a $3.5 million gap on the loan. And isn't that right on the service, on the debt service? Then there's a $3.5 million gas on the $150 million debt service loan that we had to cover this year.
Just in the general fund.
General, okay. So we start with that, but now we add on that we've got, this major expense, and we keep spending over here. To your point, how do I decipher through, to get from point A to point B and without having it only in this conversation up here? So I like the idea of a workshop, very much so.
Sounds good.
We can have our guru down there come and explain it to us. That would be great. Everybody says she's the guru.
The budget was
That's
for,
right, she is.
Sounds great. Any other discussion on Robbie's item?
Nope. Thank you.
Consent agenda.
A motion we approve.
Second?
That was quick.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Attorney.
Thank you. The next item is consideration approval of quitclaim deed from City of Panama City FDOT. This is on behalf, or is for, Life Management Center. This is a piece of property on 15th Street. Mr. Burke is here if you have any questions concerning it. DOT is purchasing property along the 15th Street corridor. The city is currently talking with FDOT, and the city acquired the Fixel Law Firm to assist the city in that process. But this has nothing to do with that. I'm just putting it in context. This is a request so that Life Management can complete their sale of their property, that the city convey a quitclaim deed to FDOT. It does not deny any public of their rights to enter the property. It's of de minimis value, if any, to the city, and our recommendation is that the city commission approve allowing the mayor to sign the quitclaim deed.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
What if
Thank you.
Mr. Burke wrote that original deed that left out that corner? You gotta come back and correct.
Good.
Ms. Smith.
I'm sorry, I was,
Oh, yeah, you're up.
yes, and I can't find my item.
Oh, come on now.
The next item is a notice of term expirations on the Infrastructure Surtax Citizens Committee. The Infrastructure Surtax Citizens Committee has 3 positions for 2-year terms that expire on January 11th of 2028. The current members, Mr. Vic Jones, the Ward 4 appointment, Mr. David Smith, the mayor's appointment, and Mr. Charles Tim Fontaine, the Ward 2 appointment, have all expressed interest in retaining their positions on the committee. The Infrastructure Surtax Citizens Committee is responsible for reviewing expenditures of the surtaxes to ensure that funds were expended on the projects identified by the Panama City Commission that are consistent with Florida State Statutes Chapter 212. Once a project is completed and reviewed, the Infrastructure Surtax Citizens Committee will issue a report to the public on whether its findings of the expenditures were consistent with Florida Statute Chapter 212. These reports will be posted on the city website. Each Panama City Commissioner may appoint 1 citizen of Panama City to the 5-member committee. Members serve 2-year terms. A chair and vice chair shall be selected by the committee. The Infrastructure Surtax Citizens Committee meets once a quarter at a minimum, and applications are available on the city's website at www.panamacity.gov.
I'd like to nominate David Smith to continue.
David Smith,
Same for Vic Jones. To
Vic
continue.
Jones.
And I'm not ready to make the Ward 2 nomination today.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on their nominations?
Yes, please.
A motion to approve the 2 nominations before today.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
City manager.
Item 11A is consideration, approval, and authorization for the mayor to sign Resolution 2026-0113.1, authorizing the grant application by the City of Panama City under FY26, Florida's Safe Routes to Schools Infrastructure Program grant from the state of Florida through the Department of Transportation for the city to install sidewalks along Beck Avenue, but I believe that's supposed to be Michigan because Lucille Moore is not up against Beck Avenue. Around Lucille Moore School. Florida's Safe Routes to School Infrastructure Program is available to facilitate the planning, development, and implementation of projects that will improve safety and reduce traffic congestion, fuel consumption, and air pollution. The City of Panama City has determined it is in the best interest to add sidewalks to Beck Avenue, but again, I believe that's supposed to be Michigan. Can y'all confirm that? I'm sorry, we were supposed to confirm that earlier, because Lucille Moore is on Michigan Avenue, not Beck Avenue. The city is requesting $998,936.81 in grant funding to install sidewalks. This grant would require a 50% match of $500,000. Staff recommendation through the Director of Public Works is the commission approve this. Can we table this and come back to this at the last item? I'm sorry, there's confusion here. Would that be okay?
The map's on there. It's correct.
Map's on.
There's already a sidewalks on Michigan Avenue.
So, okay,
But it qualifies for Safe Routes to
Okay.
School because it's in the.
That's
Yes.
not even
Well,
on.
The agenda item says
Kinda odd,
Beck
isn't it?
Avenue. I mean,
Yeah.
Michigan, it says Beck and around Lucille Moore, and it's on Michigan.
I know it is, sir, but I guess it's in that vicinity. So I think I think the issue is because kids can use that route to get there, that's the issue. It just was worded
I
kind of
don't
funny.
care, I mean, it's
Yeah.
fine, I want to make sure that we're
Yeah.
putting it
It's
in the
right.
right place.
That's right.
Mr. Hayes, it is correct. It's because it's within 2.5 miles of radius of the school, and this is a missing chunk of sidewalk, and it can be used to access the school. That's why it's on there.
Currently, that's the only stretch of north-south roadway that does not have any sidewalks. And so that was the premise.
I think Lisenby Avenue would be
Yeah.
another good candidate.
Yeah. Lisenby has sidewalk.
Not all the way down there.
North of 15th. It doesn't,
Yeah.
North of that. So,
I mean, it has a sidewalk by where the cemetery starts, but nothing south of that until you hit 15th.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
there where the new gas station is, they put in a sidewalk.
Yeah, I don't think it goes all the way north. I'm talking about where PPG Paints is.
Correct.
Yeah.
But right there at that parcel, that was part of the development of that new, so they got a piece of sidewalk that ends.
Yeah.
So I'm supporting what you're saying.
Go follow.
Unfortunately,
I'll motion
that's-
to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Was there a second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
11B.
I'd like to read the budget amendment resolution, and it's 202-60113.2, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 25-26 budget to utilize funding from multiple city sources. No, it's the wrong motion, the wrong resolution.
I was wondering, I was like, he's ready.
113.1.
It's Resolution 2026-0113.1, a resolution of the city, Panama City, authorizing the grant application by the city under fiscal year 2026 Florida Safe Route to School Infrastructure Program grant from the state of Florida through the Department of Transportation for the city of Panama City to install sidewalks, and authorizing the city manager and authorizing the grants division or designee to submit the application and the city manager to execute and implement all other documents associated with the implementation and execution of the grant and providing an effective date.
Item 11B is consideration to approve budget amendment resolution 202-60113.2 and approve the interlocal agreement for staffing and the purchase of equipment to establish an internal paving team. As background information, at the November 4th, 2025 Panama City Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting, the board voted to enter into an interlocal agreement between the Panama City CRA and the City of Panama City for roadway repairs and repaving in the Millville and downtown North districts. The agreement in the agreement in the Millville district is for the amount of $450,000 per year for 5 years, and for a total of 4.3 miles of road repairs and repaving over that time. And in the downtown North District for the amount of $250,000 per year for 5 years, for a total of 2.4 miles of road repairs and repaving over that time. At the November 4th meeting, the board also requested to include the St. Andrews CRA District beginning in fiscal year 27 in the amount of $250,000 per year for 4 years, for a total of 1.9 miles of road repairs over that time. The roadway repairs and repaving within all 3 CRA districts are outlined in the enclosed interlocal agreement. Additionally, using Housing and Urban Development Funds, or HUD funds, in FY26, the city's housing department can contribute $273,000 for the leasing of a Leeboy 8608 asphalt paver and $350,000 for paving materials and equipment rentals for roadway repairs and repaving in low to moderate income areas. During the 6-month lease period, the paver could only be used in the LMI areas. At the end of the lease term, the city would then purchase the paver for approximately $1,700.00, and the city would then own the equipment and it could be used throughout the entire city. This request also includes the purchase of a 15-ton Stoltz site spreader in the amount of $235,708.00 to be paid for using the Environmental Services Reserve Funds. This piece of equipment spreads an even layer of dry cement powder over the roadway, which would then be incorporated into the road base and hydrated using the roadway repair process to improve the roadway's underlying base materials. All of the above specified expenses, with the exception of the St. Andrews CRA funds, as those will not be available until FY27, are included in Budget Amendment Resolution 2026-0113.2 in the amount of $1,558,708.00. Additionally, this request includes a 5-year plan showing how we can repair and repave 20 miles of city streets over this period by supplementing the funds outlined above with infrastructure surtax funds in 2 years, in years 2 through 5 of the interlocal agreement. Also included is a table showing the proposed roads to be repaired in the first year of the ILA is also included. It should also be noted, per the Commission decision on October 28, 2025, the city is working with Roadway Management Technologies, or RMT, for them to begin providing the city with real-time pavement condition data to aid in roadway management, maintenance, budgeting, and decision-making. This system has actually already begun providing data and provide more data in the spring of this year, so some adjustments to the exact roadway segments to be repaired can be expected after that data becomes more available. Staff recommendation through the Director of Public Works and the City Manager's Office that the Commission approve the interlocal agreement, approve the collaboration between the Housing and Public Works Departments, approve the above-mentioned equipment purchases, and approve the associated budget amendment. Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I do have one point.
Great example of.
When we talked about it previously, you mentioned that it sounded like there was a funding mechanism in this team that could be used for infrastructure on the marina. Is that what you said?
What I was saying is, I don't know.
Okay.
The answer to that question. What I do know is that, well, I know that like we couldn't use the housing to go towards the marina, okay? Could we?
Yeah, I think it's LMI area.
Okay, the marina is?
I think downtown is LMI.
Yeah.
I think we need to check the marina
The answer
itself.
is yes.
It's an opportunity zone.
It is an opportunity zone.
It is an opportunity zone, yeah.
It's also
So, and again, I think here what gets me is we have to go find the money and do a budget amendment in order to go get something. And by the way, this paving machine is for parking lots, not for roads that we're going to buy. Okay, and we're paving roads. My research says that this concrete powder, that machine, there's 3 roads in Bay County that have been done with that. Okay, I'm wondering if we are even. If we have spec the right stuff, but all of that aside, there's over $5.5 million that we could set aside right now and not do anything with. Don't know if it can be applied to the marina, don't know, but we just know that we need money. And this would be a good step in saying, the question is it necessary? And, and that's for y'all to decide. I'm gonna vote no because of that, yes.
Yeah, I think this is a response, a very creative response to us having potholes all over neighborhoods.
It is,
You know,
but we can't
Millville.
fix potholes. And we're gonna pave roads, is my problem.
Yeah,
So-
but the potholes are in the roads.
One of the number one issue out of Ward 3 was fix the roads. And Ward 3 has, it has some bad roads, but some of those roads don't even hold a candle to the roads in the code.
Or Millville.
Or Millville. So I think that this is a very creative response to the lack of maintenance that this city has done for decades on the road system. And if we were to just rely on just contractor work, we would never, ever catch up. And we're going to have to rely on contract work to do the larger portions of these roads. If you'll notice, all of the roads that are being proposed are not highly traveled roads. They're not our major thoroughfares. They're neighborhood roads. And neighborhood roads cost the most to per foot to completely redo because mobilization costs and the fact that when you're running your machines, you're only running them for a very, very short distance versus doing, say, all of State Avenue or all of Jinx Avenue or any of those longer roads, right? The longer you can go and run that machine, the cheaper overall the entire job can be per foot. But
That's true, but we don't need to hire 4 more people. We don't need, this is not turning into $1.5 million. This is turning into a much larger expense in an area that we really, it's a
seriously,
philosophical thing. I don't believe that we ought to be in the road business.
I do.
100%. I don't care if it's small or large. My conversations with road guys over the last week have been, it'll cost us at least 35% more than the road guys are doing because we don't have the equipment, we don't have the staff, we're not skilled in it yet. It's going to take a while.
yeah, there's going to be some growing pains.
And while
for sure.
we're in this place of we need to save money, this would be a good time to just take a pause and then worry about that. Over the next couple of months, that road is not going to fall apart after the last 20 years of not being taken care of. But again, that's a philosophical thing for me.
Commissioner Hughes.
So as one who lives in the neighborhoods, not my roads anywhere near my house, but those roads could be in this project. Because we have to be aware, oh yeah, up here there's gonna be a hole. If I don't, I'm gonna hit it. And these roads are not on major projects. They're just not getting looked at. And so there is the need. And I think that if we were to wait on the contractors or propose it, my research has shown that it's not enough for them to be interested in because of the lag time.
And every one of them told me they would jump on it in a heartbeat. How about this? Could we do this? I think we have spec the wrong equipment, I believe, could we maybe go and say, all right, guys, let's go to the salespeople. Say, if y'all were going to sell it to us, what would you sell us? If you were going to spec it out, what would you? We're buying something for a parking lot, and we're going to use it for roads. My concern is, are we starting on the wrong foot?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, and I'll ask, I don't know if we want Mr. DeVito or Mr.
That was
Murphy,
actually a
but
question I asked at the very beginning was, can we beat the price of the vendors?
I think a couple of things as Mr. DeVito comes up. So number one, and I think Mr. Granger alluded to this is a staff response to direction from this board. Maybe not this particular board, but past boards, to be fair. And ever since I moved back to the city about 4.5 years ago, even before I got into public works and before I became the city manager, the one thing I've heard the most is roads. And I'm sure all of you heard that as well. And again, Matt can extend on this a little bit more, but Yes, this is a slightly smaller paving machine. It could be used in parking lots. It can also be used on shorter segments of roads. So we can absolutely do like 1 or 2 blocks in a neighborhood. And it's not our desire to compete with with the larger companies. We're still going to need them to come in and do like, many blocks, in an entire project area. And I think that's, we're looking to, what I kind of described it for the layperson is, our abilities are like at around a level 1 or 2, and I'd love to take those up to like around a 4 maybe. I'm not saying we're going to go to an 8, 9, or 10, which would be a major road contractor doing highways and doing like over a mile at a time. Our goal is to kind of fill that gap. And I think part of the challenge is, and I got the data for November, but I mean, our guys between utility cuts and potholes and cave-ins during the month of November, I mean, they did almost 100 repairs. The problem is the majority of the road failures in our city are not true potholes. It's not a simple failure of the base. It's actually a failure of the underground utility, which is why we say, please don't just run around as a citizen and fill in potholes, because you're probably filling in a cave-in and potentially causing more damage to the system, because we've got to take care of what's underneath that. So this effort, and yes, Commissioner Granger's right, there are going to be some growing pains, but again, our goal is to kind of stand in that gap between just patching small utility type cuts for necessary repairs, smaller potholes and true cave-ins, and being able to come in and say, we can do this 1 or 2 block here and there if the utilities either need minor repair or an acceptable condition, and it's just time for like a simple mill and resurface. So we're not trying to go to like a level 9 or 10. We're trying to go to like maybe a level 4 or 5 to kind of in that gap, because mobilization is very expensive.
Is this the most
for a
important
private
thing for the
sector.
city to be doing right now?
Yes.
Based on the feedback I've received from the past commission, yes, sir.
Okay.
Roads, yes.
No, you're framing it with roads. That's not true. This is an expense that is hidden behind roads that is going to balloon. I promise you, it is not a $5 million deal. It's more than that. We don't have the right equipment, guys. What if we just looked at it and said for a moment, let's go spec out what the road guys say we ought to have, because we don't have that.
So
They say I don't even want to hire 4. They say you need 8 people to run this whole operation to do it right.
when you say it's not true and it's hiding behind roads, are you saying this money is going to go somewhere other than roads?
No, I'm saying that that we gotta do it because it's roads, okay? But we gotta go find the money in this department, this department, this department, and we're gonna tie up the money over here. Is it really an important item to do right now because it's roads, or is it because we need to get into road paving business?
It's because of the money. You have 2 sources of funds that are generally used to fix the roads. One
Can
is the
somebody give me
infrastructure surtax,
both
and the
in-house
other
and
one
out-house?
is general funds, and that's it.
Well, give me a private bid and an in-house bid.
Yeah, I mean, we've already done all that. I mean, it's very,
No,
very
we got a
simple.
presentation of what they could save us. We didn't get a presentation from any private.
I don't need a presentation to
Or a
see
number,
that
not
how
a-
much money we can save by having our own teams do tiny, tiny segments, little finger roads off of the main road. I know.
And it
I know
costs us $5 million to get there.
in your ward, similar to my ward, you have a lot of roads that are kind of your feeder roads,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have your dead-end cul-de-sac type roads, right? And a lot of times, the dead-end cul-de-sac road probably needs a lot of attention, probably needs a lot of asphalt. I'm thinking of like Joy Circle in my head right now, right off of Jinx.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect example of a road that we could go in, and it will not meet this requirement due to the LMI constraints right now. But in the future, if we stand this up, we can literally go in and just fix Joy Circle, and it be tens of thousands of dollars instead of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're building a tool that allows us to save money on the smallest, tiniest little pieces of asphalt in the city.
Okay.
And not having to wrap those up into an overarching bid that's going to cost us millions of dollars.
So when you say 5 million, you're adding up all the years together?
I'm taking the years together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
We're
not-
restricting those funds, Mayor,
Yeah.
that we potentially can use going forward in a necessary expense that we have coming up. This is all, my whole thing is predicated on this large expense that we now are facing. Okay, and whether I agree or disagree with the paving, this is about prioritizing what's important.
Commissioner Hughes, a couple of things have been brought up in relation to funding that I've done some quick research. As far as the LMI areas and what we can use on the marina, according to HUD's map, only the uplands on the downtown marina are included, so the T-Doc's
So yes,
not there.
your answer
So-
is it can be used.
Yeah,
Well,
can be
so,
used.
to be clear, the T-Doc is not included on the map. All I see is the
Just the
uplands.
rectangle.
So, yeah, so that's what I'm getting at.
What's the T-Doc
The
is the
T-Doc is not included on HUD's map for that LMI area downtown.
Okay.
Now, I can do some further research, that's just cursory review. And then you mentioned, could other monies that were cobbled together in this proposal be used for those improvements? The solid waste fund, I want to remind you, is an assessment-based fee, and so it's unrestricted revenue. So to your point, that potentially could be used.
Just out of the solid waste fund today, guys, we bought four garbage trucks, tying up money for the next 5 years on a paving machine. That's our piggy bank right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, but
the
they can only
$5
be
million
used on-
is now down to 3.9, I guess now, something like that.
Those funds can only be used on certain things.
I get it,
Yeah.
I get it. But again, I'm not trying to convince you to not not vote on this. It's a function of, can we have the discussion of prioritizing? I mean, if we needed $3 million at the end, 6 months from now, and we can't get it because we've restricted everything, that's all I'm trying to think is,
Well, I would wonder what a normal citizen would say. I mean, it sounds like the real saying is, what's the priority, the marina and getting infrastructure back in the marina, or the roads? And I would wonder, I mean, citizens might say the roads.
well, hold on, this isn't about we have
Those are the
voted
partners on the marina.
to fund this. We don't get a choice on if it's priority or not. We are in charge of paying for the marina. Okay, whether that's
We don't
priority.
have to do that now.
Well,
You're using a
You
large
just said
sense
it,
of
we don't have to do, exactly, we don't have to pay the roads now either, and which one's a
Right.
priority? I
Right,
guess.
and that was my point. I said,
Yes.
if we would ask the citizen, if you had to choose one, and this is hypothetical, if you had to choose one, which one would it be? That would be a very interesting question. I don't have that data. They might say the road in front of my house is more important than a
they
boat
probably
slip
pick
that I don't
roads.
rent.
Yeah.
I agree.
Politics, like real estate,
They
is
might.
hyper-local.
And y'all, and we can vote on it, I mean.
It's
So,
roads,
One.
commodes, security, and safety.
So I haven't-
That's
I haven't
the
said-
primary role of local
Not that marina is
government.
not a priority, and I'm just saying, that is a very interesting question. I would wonder what they'd say. They as in the country.
I did want to give,
Yeah.
if we
that's what I
can,
was asking. Matt, can you
Matt
explain
did a
why
lot of
y'all
work on
chose
this.
The machine that you chose?
Yeah, Matt DeVito, Deputy City Engineer. We spoke with the suppliers and landed on the equipment that we thought was most appropriate. If we were going to pave I-10, would we have this equipment? No, we wouldn't. But for what we're envisioning doing, this seems appropriate. Could we buy a bigger paver that would do longer haul projects? Absolutely, but that's not what we were trying to get into.
Would you maybe think that if we were to have bought one of those bigger pavers, we probably would be a bigger threat to the contractors who do this work?
One would think.
And if we, the paver that we were looking to purchase, because it can't do the large jobs, like say, the 15th Street, 23rd, and that kind of stuff, that we're going to be limited on what we can do?
I would say so. I think what we're envisioning purchasing would suit our needs. And we have a tremendous amount of work for contractors that's in the hopper presently.
Yeah. Some of which we approved today.
Are we okay with hiring 4 new people?
I have two comments, and I thank you, Matt, and I appreciate the team's work on everything that they put together. I think this is a very creative thing, and roads are a huge piece. I would encourage us, if this does move forward in approval today, that we give instruction to staff to communicate anything back that changes. Like, I'm concerned about the use of housing dollars, specifically because there's a disposal process, and this $1,700 number I don't think is accurate. So somebody's going to have to reimburse that fund. The second one is, we have obligations going into next year regarding personnel. We have a step increase that is built into our processes that we're committing to. Adding $300,000 worth of payroll could put those in jeopardy as far as what we're able to do in step increases. So I just want to make sure that this is understood, that we're expanding payroll not decreasing it. And those are my primary concern. Need, not a concern.
So
Leadership,
how about
not a
cross-training,
concern.
Josh? Can we cross-train some existing instead of hiring four?
You know, I mean, one of the proposals that, you know, with Clint and Matt, the beach does have a paving machine. You know, my thought was like, can we work out something to use theirs temporarily? They don't use it all the time. Like, I mean, I don't know if there's other creative ideas, but, you know, as presented, those are my two main concerns. It's the ongoing payroll when we already are operating at a deficit in that payroll with an obligation that we've already committed to on a step increase. As well as the use of, you know, these HUD funds in a lease purchase agreement, which will most likely require either an appraisal or something and its disposal. I don't think $1,700 is going to be what it is. And I think it would be important for us to be educated if it doesn't come out the way that it is proposed here, to understand like, hey, did we get an accurate picture when we first voted on it?
And Commissioner Street, to your point, I'd like to add, when we have our budget workshop, that we talk specifically about employee salaries. Because recall last year, we did not give a cost of living increase. And so I think it would be detrimental if we were to follow that 2 years in a row. We definitely need to plan.
And you're pointing to my concern in it.
Yes.
It's not about the need, it's not about the work, it's not about what you guys have put together. We're 6 months from budget now, and I'm starting to take a closer look as far as what our obligations are ongoing, to the point that we talked about in the.
Do we have a motion?
Well, I want to add, yes, we do.
We do.
We're in discussion. The interesting thing you said was, I didn't realize the beach had an asphalt machine sitting there, or machines sitting there. I was unaware of that. I would love to see our staff reach out to the beach to see if we can't rent their machine before we buy our own machines. Is that possible?
That is possible.
I have met
Dump
with,
trucks, you can rent, you can rent.
I mean, am I incorrect? I mean, I think that's what you guys shared with me, is that they have a machine.
they do have one. I went and met with those guys a couple months back. The conversation of any kind of agreement to share equipment or rent or something like that, that was not discussed. It was not mentioned by them, so I don't know if they would have an issue with that or not. Happy to have that discussion if that's the direction that we're given.
I'd rather not. I'd rather move forward with this, because you don't know what the condition of their machine is, and we're just delaying this any further.
If I may, I think I would agree with Mr. Granger. I think being more control of our own destiny, borrowing stuff from friends can be challenging. But again, you know, I want to address one thing. So over 5 years, there's no impact to the general fund. What we're proposing, CRA is paying for the staff, housing is paying for the equipment, and then the environmental services fund. So during that time, I think all of us collectively will have a grasp on how it's going. And if we get to, and you know, our goal is to make it successful. And then I think after that, if it is successful, and we've proven that we can control more of our own destiny in our roads, sponsor response time, quicker response time, lower mobilization fees, then I think we have a longer conversation about that. Because again, I don't remember which one of y'all made the point. I think it might have been the mayor. You know, we did go 40 plus years as a city without really maintaining our roads and the utilities. And so that's kind of, you know, that's kind of what we're dealing with today. But I think, you know, staying on top of the maintenance of our roads, and if you maintain them properly with the rejuvenization process, milling and resurfacing, you know, those type of investments are less than a full-blown road replacement. And I think that's part of the challenge now, is so many of our roads need more than just that simple mill and resurface. And so these tools, getting creative and using, you know, other type of funding sources to kind of stand in that gap over the next 5 years is our goal. And during that time, again, given the opportunity to prove ourselves, provide that value for, you know, for the citizens and businesses of our city, looking towards, you know, that for more. Again, we're not talking about repaving, you know, every single road or any of these bigger projects. We still have a number of projects that you're going to see over the next several years where we absolutely need private contractors for utilities construction, for road construction, and even for ongoing vertical construction. So.
All right, any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
No.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
No.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
I would just encourage everyone to make sure that WIC follows the actual process that was proposed in funding.
I'd like to read the resolution title, 2026-0113.2, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 2025-2026 budget to utilize funding from multiple city sources for the creation of an internal residential paving crew. This was considered, I believe, a couple of months ago by the CRA board, and it has been approved at that level.
Item 11C is consideration of unsolicited offers for city properties received by staff through January 5th of this year. As background information, at the direction of the city manager, city staff has compiled all unsolicited offers received and organized by date for commission review and consideration. A spreadsheet listing the offers has been attached for your review. Staff requests commission provide direction on unsolicited offers received through January 5th of this year. Mr. Mayor?
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
Yes, let's do a 5-minute
Good call.
recess.
easy.
Let's get the party started again. That's good. Where are we at?
I had just introduced item 11C, the unsolicited offers,
11C.
seeking commission direction.
Yeah, I think we could spend 16 hours talking about all these. I'd like to have a workshop as soon as possible on these. I'd like us to reach out to everyone who has email and sent these in, email and call them, ask them if they want to send us more comments or their pitch deck for clarification, and schedule a workshop and invite.
So moved.
Let's,
This is where that framework comes in, guys.
Yeah.
Because with this, we can go down to each one of them and say, do we want to consider selling it? Okay? That's the first question. If so, yes. And here are the allowables that we can, that are there. All right, we don't want to allow this on there, okay? And let's say Janice is one of these people. Say, Janice, you want to amend your offer, you can, but we're gonna let this one go out. We got 2 weeks, and anybody can bid on it. Sealed bid still, okay? And from there, if open it up after that, and you either have multiple bids on that property or you only have one, and Jonathan then starts to negotiate with them.
Yeah,
I don't think you have to go out to bid for every single thing, and by state
It's
law.
not a, yeah,
by
you do,
state law,
because
you do not have
it's
to.
city property. If it's an RFP, everybody gets a chance. If it's unsolicited, why does everybody not get a chance?
So state law recently changed, and you don't have to go out to bid for unsolicited offers. I'm not saying that
That's
we
sunsetted.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't go out to bid on some things. I'm just saying that there's some things on this list that don't make any sense to go out to bid for because they're service related instead of property. That's all I'm saying. So
on that note, I'd also like to add that some of these are from 2020, 2021, 2022.
I just checked the 25
If we are going forward, as we have indicated, to create a new process, I think anything that's over a year old needs to become a part of whatever our new process is. There were some guidelines about unsolicited proposals. For instance, I've heard that the response time needed to be in X number of days. Well, I mean, 4 years certainly has gone past that. And I think we muddy the waters if we rush to accept some of these and then start a new process.
Sure.
Particularly if they're 4 and 5 years old.
Yeah, I think part of the workshop we can discuss the process in which we want to handle these. What I want to avoid, just as a broad stroke, is a citizen sends in an idea of a property. They may have no means of even doing it. They may have a dollar to their name.
Yeah.
They then trigger $10,000 of taxpayer money of a process of doing something, and then we go, a Ferris wheel in the middle of Sweet Bay?
yeah.
No way. And so, like, I think just the understanding of, like, whenever we have an unsolicited offer, it first comes to a virtual meeting as soon as we can, and we broadly discuss, do we even want staff to even spend a moment of their time, taxpayer money, on the thing before we proceed down any path?
I can agree with that. However, if we're looking at, as we've talked, we've got a lot of property and let's create a process for people to make up an offer on that, then we're creating a proactive approach that benefits the city versus the unsolicited proposals, which more often than not are going to be more beneficial to the offerer, because that's kind of how it works. In law, they say Mr. Zimmerman, the lawyer that frames the case, will win it, and he or she who writes the contract writes it to their favor.
That's what I've been missing for 32 years.
So I can be supportive of the timeline. Hey, look, it's been a year, but I do want to make sure that everybody's gotten contacted back, because I'll give you a good example. So this one from Myers, which is affordable workforce housing for employees, they've consistently stayed engaged since 2023. We just haven't been able to get something to commission discussion or approval or anything else like that. I mean, they've emailed multiple times and done follow-up.
And those 2 lots are actually reserved by the housing department for ASAP.
Which has gotten communicated that they don't need them. And so like that, so it's like locked up in there's some of these things that even if they're beyond a year back, they've just been caught in the quagmire of City Hall. And so as long as everybody gets communicated with, I can be supportive of that. I just, even if they're back in 23, some of these people have stayed engaged this long. Now, others have probably gone off and doing something else, so they'll just respond back, no longer interested, and you move on. So.
Go ahead.
Would it not be plausible to think that we set up a process and someone who wants an area, a parcel or parcels would follow our process?
Yes.
And perhaps why the quagmire exists is because staff didn't have clear direction on how to move forward.
There was
to
zero
negotiate.
process. You're right.
Yeah. And so I think what we need more so is a process that's clear that staff can follow. And then have these folk, make them aware of this process. Because otherwise, we're going to start a process and then negotiate with, I don't know, there's 26 on here, 10, 12, 5 outside of the process that we're creating.
Let me give it, let's role play a little bit here, Pete. 11 lots on Harmon Avenue. I'm Jonathan. He calls each of us and says, hey, would you be interested in having a conversation about selling 11 lots on Harmon Avenue? We all say yeah. That is after an unsolicited offer shows up. So all Jonathan does is make a phone call or an email, because that's what he does. If we say yes, now at the next commission meeting, he's going to announce that we've agreed to discuss selling this and give the public the opportunity for 2 weeks. So stay in between commission meetings. There's a process. Everybody, so far it's easy. We haven't done anything other than say yes. And at the next one shows up, now that's when we open the offer.
So I make my statements because we've got 50 people that just sat through a one-day workshop for small-scale incremental development. They are asking, can we, and so their approach, they don't know what the approach is. They don't know what the process is. And I've been saying, I haven't encouraged unsolicited proposals because I think what we need to do is a process that says these are the lands, you want to make a proposal, come on. And we know that situation currently exists, so to rush to judgment to approve anything over a year, I think, is not.
It's not a good idea.
Yeah, not a good idea, thank you.
I think Robbie's idea is the fastest way to sell properties. But I don't think, I would be interested in what other cities would do. I think this would be opportunity, if we put this as a workshop in the next 30 days or something, I'd love to bring some ideas from other cities of what they would do. I think there are some, we talked about infill lots being part of the Income Development Alliance, or some habitat or someone else building on them, not just us. We could sell, there's a variety of options. And then the more you get with mixed use type commercial corridor lots, those get even trickier and more P3-ish. But I'd be just interested in how another city would handle this.
But I think it's very, very important. And this is the real estate agent talking to me here. The more what the buyer knows up front that the use that's going to be allowed, we get to restrict that on anything that we're going to sell. Okay, any seller does. If we're going to change or put any restriction on that, we must do it up front. Putting it on the back end changes the value. It changes how they negotiate. Okay, and that's not fair. That's not good. It's not a meeting of the minds, in my opinion, because you have changed the rules at the end. So that whatever we do, please, let's all, hopefully we can all agree that if we're going to talk to a buyer, it's unsolicited or solicited, or we come up with it, we got to let them know what the rules are up front.
So then for us to sell any property, we have to go through and go every single use that we want to see on every single property.
No. If we're going to sell a residential lot, it's all you can do is build a house.
Can we move this discussion to a workshop?
Yeah, because
that's fine. That's fine.
I'd like to motion that we have a workshop in the next 3 months about this topic and these unsolicited offers. I also like to make as part of that motion that staff reaches out and contacts each one of these folks to see if they are still interested or not.
The only thing other that I'll add is, can we define some process? Because I see new ones coming in that I
Yes.
didn't even know about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So staff is obviously spending time on these. There's others that haven't had any time spent on that are previous. I'm trying to understand what is the staff's process right now with how you guys are engaging with P3s on some and then others have no engagement. Can you help define
Yep,
that?
absolutely. So one of the reasons that we provided this full list today is because I don't think anything nefarious happened, but I think it appeared that certain unsolicited proposals were not making its way either to the city manager's office or to the elected officials. And so I kind of wanted to, coming in through multiple departments. So what we're doing right now, barring any more formal process that this body may adopt, we kind of treat it kind of in the similar fashion with purchasing and bidding, in the sense that if any unsolicited offer comes into the city, it goes to purchasing. And Mr. Self and Ms. Branning track that and provide regular updates to, I believe, weekly updates to the city manager's office. And then, honestly, a lot of times with some of these unsolicited offers, they will copy, the respective elected official of that ward, or sometimes the mayor. And, depending on this body's excitement of it, and I've always consistently maintained, that you guys being as flexible as possible, in my opinion, makes the most sense in operation and management of the city. So, I would agree with like those 10 or 11 lots down Harmon. Yeah, selling those at market value for someone to build houses on makes sense, and that's a very reasonable thing. But then to the east is a full acre waterfront lot that the city also owns. I believe it was potentially bought, for the courthouse or something.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I would, I think something like that, if we did want to get rid, I don't know why we're owning that waterfront lot. I think that's a lot. I don't know that city owned that's the highest and best use. So if someone was very interested in purchasing that, I would ask them, what are some things you're thinking of? And I would probably bring that forward to I would bring that forward for y'all to consider. Because again, that's an area, number one, it's an area that we want to see invested in. And it is unique in the sense that, it's this large waterfront parcel that's not going to be used anymore. So I don't know why we're necessarily the highest and best use of that. And so that's just, I wanted to give a very specific example of one that if I did receive an offer like that, I would probably sooner rather than later put that on y'all's radar. But the chances are that one of y'all is going to be involved in that, in the sense that when you're notified of the unsolicited offer, they're going to copy you guys on it. I see that probably the majority of the time anyway.
Not all of these, though.
Not all of them. I agree. Not all of them. But some of the bigger ones, they make one of the elected officials known at the same time. But again, the reason I provided this full list is I just wanted you guys, a lot of these predate me. I just wanted to make sure that this body had full visibility into what we'd received over the last several years.
Okay,
I can identify several in Ward 2 that I have not been copied on.
So I would say, even if it's in Ward 2 or it's in Ward 4, we all should be notified.
Agree
And so-
100%.
So these that are right now taking place that unaware of, until this email, like there's got to be some way to loop us in. Like I'm looking at the 1218 College Avenue. Apparently internally, you guys have been working on a senior housing facility for 80 units since July. This is the first time I've ever hearing about it. And we've already gone through the appraisal process. Like I would like us to be included on the front side so that it doesn't look like what this appears as staff is taking action on some, but not on others. And I don't think that's the intent, like you're saying,
Yes, sir.
Jonathan, but it definitely appears that way.
That perception exists, and even not necessarily, I don't even have visibility on some of that, and that's a problem as well. So.
All right, so we have a
Workshop.
motion, do we have a second?
I would just ask, will you amend to include staff should not take action on P3s without looping the 5 of us into it?
I will amend my motion that staff should not take action on P3s without having a process, or without the workshop happening. I think we can decide what all these things need to happen in the workshop. You know what I mean? Like you pointed out, hey, we
A
should all
workshop for every one of these.
be made aware. I agree, but I think we should make that sausage in the workshop.
So we should hit pause on the rest until we
Yes.
do the workshop?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
that's what
hit
I
pause
see.
on
There you go.
everything.
All right, that's
And-
fine.
Okay, any discussion? Hopefully
Yes.
Do I have a second?
not. We did. We did, I thought we did. Did you make a second?
I just asked for the amendment. I think Robbie seconded it.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're still talking about how to continue doing what we've been doing. Instead of looking at how do we take all of the lots that the city loans that we want to make available, say what the zoning is, and say, here, everybody, this is what's out there. And then let people come forward, as opposed to, okay, we're going to go ahead, if, you know, hypothetically, we're going to take these 80 lots off, and then there's another one for 11 lots we're going to take off, and then when you add up all the other lots, what's left to make available generally to everybody? And so if ultimately we're going to go, yes, you've given us unsolicited offer, we want to advertise it to the public, why not create a process that takes all of that into consideration now?
I offered it up already.
I'd like to do that in a workshop.
I agree, because like for me, like I look at Deer Avenue as a good example of mine. That was a multifamily project that ultimately converted to single-family homes. Well, there's still 6 vacant lots there that have been there for now years, and we had a P3 proposal to do a multifamily project there that would have already been built by now. And so I want to get into problem solving to get to that point, and I think the only way to do it is a workshop.
Yes.
Perfect.
What's your time?
He said 3 months.
3 months.
I'm open for sooner if we can get that sooner, so.
Can you meet me in the middle of 30 days?
Yes. The motion makers in second.
Can you bring it down from 3? Can I meet you?
From 3 months?
Yeah, in the next 3 months. You
I
said
think
3
we
months,
could do it in
right?
the next
said
6
within.
weeks, Mayor, Commissioners.
Within 3 months.
Yeah,
In one of
Jonathan's saying
the, one
6
of the next 6 weeks, we could do it.
I was just trying to
There we
give
go. All right, we got a
breadth
motion and we got a
of options
second.
here.
We've had lots of discussion. Let's call the roll. I'm getting you a workshop
All right,
that I
yeah.
came up with.
Yeah.
Was the motion amended?
Yes, no, it was not.
Not
Yeah,
within the
but
next
it says
3
3
months.
months.
Jonathan,
Within.
Jonathan,
Within the next 3 months.
Within.
Yes,
Okay.
please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
Commissioner Granger.
Yes.
Commissioner Street.
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I'm gonna go see Sean and we'll come up with
All right.
something, we'll bring it.
The new 11 Delta is about the special event Mardi Gras. If you were at the boat parade of lights, there was a little bit of a malfunction with the drone show, and so the owner of that offered to come back and do another drone show at no additional cost.
Yes.
And so we need a little bit of space for that. And then additionally, the crew of St. Andrews wants to utilize portion of the marina to kind of sell VIP parking, about 100 spots. We worked very closely with the marina superintendent on our staff, as well as our Parks, Culture and Recreation Department, to make sure that would not have any negative impact on the commercial operation, and we feel confident. And so you may recall about a year ago, there was a little bit of a kerfuffle around some of the parking after the fact. So I'm just making sure in advance that y'all know that they've asked this. Staff thinks it's reasonable. I just want to get y'all to kind of give the thumbs up on it. Again, about 100 spots in and around kind of 10th and Bayview in the St. Andrews Marina. It will not impact the commercial operation. And this would be directly in regards to, to the Mardi Gras events on that February 6th
In
and
and around
7th.
10th, it's on the, they're gonna park on the marina.
On the marina,
Yeah.
and that, we had that one block closed too from
Yeah.
back towards the marina, that one
And
block
the
of
kerfuffle
10th.
was they made everybody park at like 15th Street and come down to, down towards the marina.
So I'm good with the marina piece. Did anybody talk with the business owners on the block north? Has there been any engagement with Alice and those? I just want to make sure that.
Well, I mean, that's going to be shut down anyway. Like, there's
Okay, so
limited.
there's not
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be any parking there unless it's this.
That is correct.
Okay,
That they
all right, that's
kind of
fine.
parade
Okay.
that, again, from the back to the, I guess it'd be to the west, they kind of closed that down. So,
Yeah, that drone show was cool, man.
yeah, it was
That
pretty cool.
really neat.
I watched like 5 of them fall in the water though. I was like,
Yeah, and they float, and
they float, yeah.
lights
Are
and
you looking for a motion?
I am. I'm just looking for y'all to thumbs up this. It's good. It is a slight amendment to the permit and all of that. So I just want to make sure y'all are good with it and know about it on the front end. That's all.
So
I'll
I have a
second that.
question. In reference to disabled parking, is that already in the plan where people with disabilities can?
I mean, there is handicap parking. I mean, if it's a VIP ticket, so you have to purchase.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking about disabled parking, if we planned for that.
Are there handicap spots inside the VIP area? Is that what you're asking?
We know that this is a challenge, which is why we're coming up with VIP parking.
Right.
For those who have the ability to pay to be more comfortable. Are we also looking at those who want to be a part of it and who are disabled, and how to make it more accessible for them?
Oh, I understand now. Our regular handicap spots are still going to be available in all 3 of those new parking lots. That those could be utilized, but I'm not aware, I'd have to check, I'm not aware, Mr. Myro, of any additional handicap spots that we're adding in these areas other than the ones that we have in our 3 parking lots that exist.
We don't have very many handicap parking spaces.
If we need to, maybe look at the spot that's right there at 10th and Beck and potentially, or maybe we make all of Oaks by the Bay, make 100% of those spots handicap, that might be an idea. I'll tell you what, we'll do that. We'll make all the spots at Oaks by the Bay parking lot handicap for this event.
That'll be about, what, 20?
Ish, that sounds about right.
Sounds good. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, now we're looking at just the update on the water meter status report. This was something that the mayor and a couple of the commissioners just asked for an update on. And so one of the things I shared this towards the end of last year, at our first meeting of every month, so our morning meeting, my plan is to end with just projects and efforts and updates. So, I'd love to know if there's some big effort or some specific project that y'all would like to get updated on, and also have the ability to chat about it amongst yourselves. I'm going to put that on the first meeting of every month. So this month is the water meters and all of that. So I think the meter speaks for itself, but myself, Mr. Jones, Mr. Murphy, we're willing to answer any questions y'all might have about the water meter and the replacement and all of that. And I'd love to know at our February meeting if there's something that y'all would like to get an update on regarding a major project or effort.
I'd like to see water loss as part of this report so that we can see our water loss percentage. I know it's something we've been looking at and tracking. I'd like to know if it's, if this is
Gone down?
Yeah, if it's gone down. So.
If it hasn't, we're doing something wrong. No, I know it has. We'll get the updated. Summer and I talked about that before she left. We'll get an updated percentage on that. Any questions about the meters for myself or Mr. Jones or Mr. Murphy?
Yes, what's the plan moving forward? I mean, obviously meters can fail, right? And for those of you listening, when meters fail, they usually fail open, meaning that you don't pay for the water that goes through your broken meter. What is the kind of because I look at this in the same way that I look at the roads, which is we know that they're going to need maintenance. We know they're going to need replacement, right? So what is the plan that I realize we're in the middle of it right now, but at some point we're going to have just a rolling percentage of meters that are failing, and what is our program that's going to be implemented to address just that rolling failure? Because I mean, it may be a problem that we never truly solve. It's just solved through a program.
Correct. So as just to kind of highlight and give you some background, 12 years ago, we went through this massive meter project. We replaced every meter in the city very, very rapidly. And I don't know of anybody other than some of our utilities team that are in the operations side that are still here from that implementation. But what should have happened was we had a rolling percentage of those meters, healthy or not, replaced. So you start a 5-year cycle of a fifth of your system gets replaced every so often. So you never have this problem. We're not, and outside of Hurricane Michael, the supply chain shortages that we all had, everybody experienced, we're not the only utility that's in this situation. So this is relatively new technology within the last 15 years. And so we're experiencing a side effect the industry just didn't see coming. But I will say, as part of this, we've worked with our vendor. They offer some wholly managed services that, so one, they offer database management, which is a component of this that this memo speaks to, that relieves us of the burden and the responsibility of managing a database where there's a lot of human error potential. And then two, they offer another solution that they own the meter maintenance piece of it too. So not just the supply but we can still do install, but they own the coding, the getting that data uploaded to the billing system, and that piece of it. So we're looking at those options, but we've got to recover from this particular piece first. So to recover from this, what we're addressing directly in the memo, we've asked our vendor to provide us, hey, what's it going to take for us to solve these problems in the 8% of the meters that are bad, and so they're working on that. They produced an initial proposal, and it was more of a menu item, and we needed a proposal that addressed, the however many, 1,600 approximately meters that are bad, to replace those. So they've done a couple of things. Our consultant Rayburn has identified of those meters what's still under warranty, so we can dig those out of the ground and get them replaced at more affordable rates, so we can make those warranty claims, and then what needs replaced now at cost. So they're still working that proposal and refining that. We hope to bring that before the board if needed, and within the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's our current expectation. If that changes, we'll certainly update the board. But I will say a lot of work has been accomplished at this point. We were flirting in the 4,000 to 5,000 account range that we thought was at risk. As they've refined the database and the billing system, they've really seen, hey, it's 1,600, and that includes the work we've already done with replacing near 1,000 meters in the field in the last 6 to 8 months.
Thank you.
So I would personally like to see things that are the first touch point for citizens. So whether that be meter reads, like making sure they're accurate. How many do we have on estimated billing? How many people got an estimated billing last month? Like those things. The other thing is on billing in general, they still get a ton of complaints about billing, whether it be, and I get people call at times when they're frustrated, but customer service, that's where we've got to have the greatest amount of focus. And then I'd also we used to have a number that I used to get all the time. It's taking this long to repair a water leak. What is that timeline? It started when I first came into office, it was 6 months. And then last go around we checked, it was down to 6 weeks. Well, what is it now? All of those things, the reason why I draw attention to them is those are things that our citizens engage with first. They don't go to the city manager. They don't, a lot of times, even come to the elected official first. They're talking to those people first. And I'd just like to see us metric that and then invest more there to ensure that we give the best customer service possible.
And just as a reminder, there's no action needed on the item, but I
just
will
might
take feedback.
Yeah, I know, we merged the projects and efforts update kind of more generic, and I know Mr. Zimmerman removed the City Marina Partners, but I do have coming to the January 27th commission meeting, the design engineer with Terrell Hall Associates, who did the design, or who is doing the design for the downtown Marina wet slip. He's going to be at the meeting to answer y'all's questions and have a conversation about that. A couple of you had desired to have that. So he's already planning to be here again January 27th. That's all I have on this item.
You want to talk trash?
Talk trash.
We get a motion to adjourn?
No, trash.
The trash time.
Trash talk.
So my whole thing is, we talked about this in the town hall. I get there are cycles that things go through, you don't pick up trash, but back-to-back weeks created a lot of angst inside the community and a backup of trash. So, I would like to see us, one, not do that again, but second, I was looking for a rebate. I think you've got an idea on the transfer station. It's not about the money, and I don't think it's gonna make a giant dent in a household budget, $4.30, but it is more or less saying, hey, you know, we recognize this was an inconvenience, we're sorry for it, and move on with the day and do better next time. There's a lot of reasons why, I get it, but the trash guys, to me, like, they are, and no offense to our fire guys and police guys that are here today, but they are just as important city employees inside of those. I know they're not emergency services, but when they don't show up, it's an emergency. At least it feels that way. So anyway, that's my feedback.
Yeah, thought I had since Saturday was that we have advertised 5 days, I believe you said, where we don't pick up trash. And so an unintended consequence of doing something good for our employees by extending it those 2 days back to back is what created the issue that Commissioner Street is bringing to us. And I think a good faith would be what you're suggesting.
Not exactly, ma'am. So again, with those 5 days, the east half of the city was only going to have one pickup per week, regardless of anything changing. Because it was, Christmas Day was a Thursday and New Year's Day was a Thursday. So if you are east of Balboa, you were only going to get one pickup the week of Christmas and 1 week the week of New Year's. But that's current policy, has been for 10, 20 years, is my understanding. All we did was extend it to the west half of the city. So, you know, we didn't really, the system itself put in for the east half and we just applied it to the west half. So basically we treated the entire city the same. So to me, if we're going to entertain that for the west half of the city, I would say we need to do it for the east half of the city and have a serious conversation to Commissioner Street's point. Maybe there are no, maybe if during the holidays, the expectation, because we're in the garbage collection business, we are as a city, and if the expectation is that, you know, that we're not going to miss any days, I think that needs to be consistent around the city. And so, for example, next year, Christmas is on a Friday, New Year's Day is on a Friday, so everyone east of Balboa will get 2 pickups the week of Christmas and New Year's. But on the west half of Balboa, they would only get the 1 because of our regular schedule. So all I did was make it consistent. But again, the east half of the city was only going to get 1 pickup each of those weeks anyway. And that does tend to happen more. I said this at the town hall on the east side, because like Thanksgiving Day is one of our days, and that's always on a Thursday. You know,
Well,
and yeah.
in all fairness, we pay for the tipping fees when we take the trash, so it's not like we didn't save a whole bunch of money.
No, we didn't save any
by
money.
not-
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it still costs. I think the communication was the biggest thing. One sentence, I mean, mistakes happen. I don't know if $4 is gonna make people feel better.
No,
I do
mean,
agree the communication could have been
so-
clearer.
Yes, you know.
Just so that you guys know the logistical challenge that came from that, so you get an additional day, that's an additional day the trash didn't run. So these guys were showing up, some of them were at 4 PM that they got when they typically get picked up at 8 AM the next week, because there was so much trash, they were having to double getting things going. Well, what that did is, because the communication was so poor, people thought their trash wasn't getting picked up again. So then they reached back out and they're like, oh, hey, they still haven't shown up. They still don't. So it creates this, by not doing it consistently. No one expects their trash to be picked up on Christmas Day. There's nobody. I don't care whether it's on St. Andrew's side of the city or anybody. I don't expect it. So, because it's clearly communicated, but when we go and make a change that, one, we had some alerts that went out that had different information, then we had different alerts that went out, those things, all of that creates a customer service problem. The inbox got full at solid waste. I mean, this was not it's easy to say it's just an additional day, but it's not recognizing how much just chaos it created, just trying to do something with good intentions. I get that. So anyway, you know, I agree with you. I don't think the $4, I don't know if there's a way to communicate that way, and it's something, but the biggest thing I just want to do is just make sure, hey, we're not going to jar things around within a week, you know, of time frame. You should have an expectation your trash runs on time each week, and this is what you pay, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get better next
And
time.
I think we ought to give the guys the 2 days off every year like that. I mean, they loved it. You see them out more, they were happy, and, yeah.
So let's talk about how we can do that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In in cities, so for the folks online who are maybe watching this, the way that this works is the trash truck goes on its regular route. Some days there's more trash, some days there's less. And as Commissioner Street alluded, right after and during the holidays and right after the holidays, there was a lot of extra trash. And so what wound up happening was where somebody would normally have their trash picked up at, say, 8 a.m., they maybe didn't get picked up till 4 or 6 p.m. that night. But the reason for that is because every single trash truck, when it gets full, it has to drive all the way out to Steel Field. And that causes major issues. I don't know if you've ever been out to Steel Field, but I have, and it's not a pleasant experience because it's a landfill. But when it rains, that ground gets really muddy and mushy, especially with those big heavy trucks that can't go that fast. So these big heavy trucks loaded up with trash have to stop wherever they're at on their route, drive all the way out to Steel Field at about 45 miles an hour, hope that they do not get stuck up in Steel Field, dump their load. We pay for the fees for that to happen. And then they have to drive all the way back and start up on the next house where they left off. And what we saw was this last time, there was several trips had to be taken per truck, per route. And one of the things that would fix this is a transfer station. So this is something that other cities have. It's a place more local where all of the trash trucks, when they get full, they can go dump their load to a temporary station that, there's different ways to handle it. But basically it's a collection point, and then you take a much larger trailer, truck, whatever direction we want to go in with it. And that truck then goes up to Steel Field. You can do compression and whatnot in these transfer stations so that you can make much less trips up to Steel Field. Ultimately, the trash still winds up in the same spot, but what it does is it allows way more efficiency within inside of our city for these trucks. There is potential for a transfer station to allow all of the trash pickup for the entire city to be done in one day instead of splitting the city half and half, which could potentially solve this issue, where we're not looking at half the city on 2 days out of the week and then the other half of the city on these other 2 days. We could look at having a schedule where we pick up right before and then we pick up 2 days after. Something of that nature, a transfer station would allow us. So what I'm proposing for us to do today, because I do not know how much a study would cost to look at whether or not a transfer station would benefit us. And in order to move forward with one, that's the very first step, is to have a study. So what I'm recommending that we do today is that we put it on staff to research what would it cost to do a study for a transfer station, and go ahead and commit that if we do move forward with that, that it would come out of the reserves of environmental services.
I like it. Can we call it Hayes Station?
Hayes Station.
So the only thing I'll add, and this is not to to say, hey, it's not worthy of a study or things like that. We discussed the potential of one at the old incinerator property when it first went under, earlier on.
Where's that?
It's in it's
231.
right near the intermodal system.
Yeah.
But you just said the exact question that my mind is going to. Nobody wants this anywhere near them. Mm-hmm. And that is going to be the problem, is ultimately why it was just abandoned was just, who's going to accept a transfer station in close proximity that stinks a lot, that has those kind of things.
Well, we're assuming it stinks. I mean, it makes sense why we would think that, but that's why I want to do a study, because the people who do these studies know way more about transfer stations than we do.
I would just encourage you can Google incinerator flies, Panama City, and you'll see why they stopped. Ultimately, it was the whole neighborhood was getting impacted by, ultimately what was happening at the incinerator. But,
Flies were everywhere.
Yeah. I think I guess you remember, Janice. I just remember reading the news articles. But, anyway, I mean, we could end up doing a study that we never end up executing because nobody wants it next door.
Understood, but we are, I know that the trucks themselves individually driving up to Steelfield and back is putting a ton of wear and tear on our vehicles. It's delaying trash service, and I think we could provide a much better service. And we may find that other cities, and I haven't looked for this particularly, but we may find that other cities have figured out how to deal with the smell. They might have indoor services or something like that, where it's the breeze you can't get to it to blow the stuff around or whatever. I don't know, but the point is, without a study, we don't know.
Yeah. So I guess I can support doing a study to try to figure out where and if a transportation that. Is there something that we can do with the instruction staff to like, hey, like what happened? We need to do something different next go around. Like not the additional day off, or like rotate the day, or it's going to affect St. Andrews regardless next year, because Christmas falls on one of our pickup days. So it's really not about that as much as it is. I don't want anybody else to go through what ultimately we went through either. So.
So I'll just say, I'll say two things. I think, initially the communication wasn't as clear, but we did clarify it in advance of the second week. I think the one difference is we only sent that alert out to our subscribers. Could we have done it to the whole city? Because it was that type of, I don't know if it was truly an emergency.
Then let's do a citywide apology and be done with it.
Yeah.
How about that?
There you go.
Sound great? All right.
Yes,
Then
thank
I
you.
motion to do a study and a citywide apology for the lack of trash pickup on the 2 weeks, and we move on.
Second.
All right. Thank you.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
For the west half of the city.
For the whole.
Just do the whole
So I'm
city.
apologizing for not picking up on Christmas and New Year's. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Does everybody feel good with it?
Okay.
Make the apology and send it to everybody.
Everybody.
Okay.
Door to door. Between the hours of
with balloons.
Just Jonathan, tarred and feathered.
Call the question.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion
Before we
passes
adjourn.
5-0.
We have another meeting too, don't forget.
I understand, but we've had several discussions at the dais today about communication. And communication is a culture, customer service is a culture. And I'd like us to think about how we measure how we're doing, because we've been talking about this now for a while. And I would just like to put that out there, that we need some metrics so that we can know we're improving. That's it.
I agree.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Meeting adjourned.
Next meeting?
Next meeting.
All right, the January 13th Board of Directors meeting for the Panama City Community Fund is hereby called to order. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Director Hughes?
Oh, he was just here.
He was just here.
He's around the corner.
Oh, there he is.
Director Hughes?
Sorry.
Yes,
Yes.
Director Lucas?
Present.
Director Granger?
Present.
Director Street?
Yes.
Director
Here.
Branch?
Present.
Mr. President, you have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Board members, you have the minutes from the October 14th, 2025 Panama City Community Fund Directors Meeting. Staff would entertain a motion to approve such minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Director Hughes?
Yes.
Director Lucas?
Yes.
Director Granger?
Yes.
Director Street?
Yes.
Director Branch? Motion
Yes.
passes 5-0.
Thank you. All right, item number 2 is audience participation. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the Board of Directors regarding...
Point of order. There's no approval of the agenda on this minutes things, and I did have something to add.
That is true. Yeah, and I actually even have a note right here, plus Truesdale. So,
Can we just add that?
yeah, so, thank you, Board Member Street. So, board members, for your consideration, we would just amend item number 6 to discussion of scholarship or donations for both the MLK Rec Center and contributions for Truesdale Park. We would entertain a motion to approve that amendment.
To approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Director Hughes?
Yes.
Director Lucas?
Yes.
Director Granger?
Yes.
Director Street?
Yes.
Director Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item number 2 is audience participation, limited to any item of authority for the Panama City Community Fund. If you would like to make a comment, seeing no members of the public in the room, audience participation is hereby closed. Item number 3 is approval of the financial reports. Madam Secretary?
Yes, you have before you the financial statements for the prior quarter and the year end September 30th, 2025. These are not audited as of yet. Well, the year end 9/30/2024 is audited, but the 9/30/25 and the 12/30/25 are not audited. And I'll entertain any questions that anyone might have.
Are there any
Seeing none.
questions for the Secretary? All right. We would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion, a second. Any discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Hughes?
Yes.
Director Lucas?
yes.
Director Granger?
Yes.
Director Street?
Yes.
Director Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, item number 4 is confirmation of the officers for 2026. Those officers are Jonathan Hayes, President, Jeanette Smith, Secretary Treasurer, Alan Branch, Robbie Hughes, Janice Lucas, Brian Granger, Josh Street as directors. We would entertain a motion to approve and confirm the officers as listed.
So moved.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Secretary Treasurer, please call the roll.
Director Hughes?
Yes.
Director Lucas?
Yes.
Director Granger?
Yes.
Director Street?
Yes.
Director Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item number 5 is approval of 1 year of meeting dates scheduled for April 14th, 2026, July 14th, 2026, October 13th, 2026, and January 12th of 2027. Staff would entertain a motion to approve these meeting dates. There's a motion and a second?
I'll take the second he got.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? Madam Secretary Treasurer, please call the roll.
Director Hughes?
Yes.
Director Lucas?
Yes.
Director Granger?
Yes.
Director Street?
Yes.
Director Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Item number 6 is discussion of both the MLK Rec Center scholarship donations and then Truesdale Park for donations. We'll start with Board Member Lucas for the MLK Rec Center. Ms. Lucas, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning. I've received offers to donate to a fund that would cover fees for those who could show hardship. And to date, based on what I've received personally and what I've told another commissioner received, we're at about $7,000 that community want to put toward a fund. That would mean then, criteria and all that would have to be addressed. But I'd like to put that forth as a fund that's established as part of our community fund.
I like it.
I like it.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I don't have a problem tracking the funds in this fund, but as far as the criteria and the program, did you have someone else in mind for that?
I
You have
would
a-
think Parks and Rec staff. would
The
be
staff, park staff, okay.
Um,
That's fine.
And I don't know if you're referring to me, but I've talked now with three, since I thought we left.
Okay.
Three national corporations that I've just gone and asked about, if they would consider budgeting $2,500 a year to give to MLK. And I have an approval on one, but I'm going to leave that, and then I've got two more. So I'm trying to get to $10,000 a year, and that all be directed to MLK for scholarship.
Madam Secretary Treasurer, so there'd be no issue having a line item where this particular money?
Not at
would come
all.
in, right?
They just need to make sure they direct their donation to the MLK Rec Center Scholarship Program or whatever.
Will that be a checking, I mean, how does that, if they're writing a check, is that a
Yes.
checking account?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is the.
It's a fund.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
yes.
Would it be the MLK checking account?
No, it's the Panama City
There we go.
Community Fund.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
that's-
But then
yeah.
in the memo, you would write for the MLK. And what I would
Okay.
offer board members is, we're still having to bring back our fee structure and moving forward at one of the next two meetings. And so as part of that, we could put forward a framework on how the president, through the city manager's office and the PCR team processes that. I agree that would not necessarily fall through the secretary treasurer's office. That'd be okay? All right.
Do we have capability of online donations?
I'd have to defer to the secretary treasurer on that.
Campaigns, why can't we do it here?
Well, we don't have anything like that with this
With this
fund.
particular fund.
This is such a small little fund.
We're trying to
We don't
grow.
have that capability.
All right.
Do we necessarily need a vote on that? Probably would be good to lock it in the minutes, I would assume. All right, so we'll entertain a motion to create a line item for donations to the MLK Rec Center to help offset fees. Is there a motion?
So move.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? We're still going to get to Truesdale. All right, please call the roll, Madam Secretary Treasurer.
I have something.
Okay,
I have discussion.
all right.
Gotta get on it now.
I know it, I'm trying, I'm
Train's
trying.
moving.
I like Mayor Branch.
Did you just call the mayor slow?
Sounds like you did.
He told me I'm more effective when I'm quiet, so.
I have some general thoughts as far as how you qualify, or we can have a special meeting because it would probably be good to have this locked down before March 1st. And I think March 1st is when the payments are to, proposals are to be made and approved. And so we do have some criteria that I have that Commissioner Lucas had researched for eligibility criteria for adult membership. I can either go through that, and I think you could approve it. It wouldn't take too long, or you could commit that in February we reconvene this group just to approve the scholarship criteria.
Great idea in February.
You want to do it in February? Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Wonderful idea in February.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm done. Thank you.
Excellent points, Nevin.
Thank you.
So did we vote? We haven't voted yet, have we?
No.
Not on MLK. All right, any further discussion? All right,
Oh, I'm sorry, should that be a part of the motion to have a special meeting? Or
Yes.
Will that?
That'd be
okay, we'll
great,
add that.
if that's okay. Yeah.
Whoever made, I made the motion.
He wants to be
I'll add
included.
that.
I did that earlier.
all right, call the roll.
Director Hughes?
Yes.
Director Lucas?
Yes.
Director Granger?
Yes.
Director Street?
Yes.
Director Branch?
Yes.
All right,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you. All right, now moving into Truesdale Park and donations for that. Board Member Street?
Similar situation, but more focused on the rebuilding efforts. There's a few businesses that want to donate their time, materials, and expertise to helping rebuild Truesdale Park. And so obviously I'd like them to get a deductible donation in that process. So if we could just create a fund that donations could be given to for helping with the reconstruction of Truesdale Park, that would be
And that's private money deduction. Okay.
probably.
So, Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
Then the donations for Truesdale Park, do they get spent before the city funds, after the city funds, mixed in with the city funds? How do we approve the expenditures? Because I usually bring the expenses to be ratified.
Right.
But in
So,
this case, you would probably want to approve them ahead of time?
As Providence would have it, we don't really have any specific identified money for the full build out on the inside. We talked about using some CRA money. There's no specific plan just yet. We really have HRP money for both the parking lot and the exterior of the building. So if people are willing to donate that, my suggestion would be that we utilize that to build out the inside of the park before we start touching any general fund money or CRA monies. That would be my approach.
So do you need them to bring, like, hey, this is our quote, or this is that? What would they need to provide you, Jan, I guess is my question. A receipt after it's done? Is that?
I'm just keeping track of the money. I mean,
So if they're expending the money before it comes to us, what we're approving is that they get a letter acknowledging their donation.
Yeah, that's basically
Oh,
that.
okay.
Now, there may be some cash that's involved from some of them, but I'll give you a good example. Like Myers is committed to rebuilding the interior electrical to the city's plan. So they'll handle that. Obviously, they would like to get a donation receipt for
Sure,
what
that can
what
be
they've
done,
contributed
yeah.
in. But then there's others that like, hey, I want to give, $1,000 to go towards that. And I would say you guys would administrate that, draw it down
Yeah.
for what work you're doing.
So we're going to have a project manager. I would imagine with this particular effort with Truesdale Park, it's going to come back in front of this board and probably the commission multiple times, depending on what we're going on, just to make sure you guys remain in the know on how we're doing something like that, since there's a lot of different kinds of monies. So, but we'll have a project manager. Public Works and PCR will work together on that, given both the vertical and the horizontal construction that will take place.
okay.
Motion to create Truesdale Park Fund as part of the Panama City Community Fund.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion on Truesdale Park? All right, Madam Secretary Treasurer, call the roll.
Director Hughes?
Yes.
Director Lucas?
Yes.
Director Granger?
Yes.
Director Street?
Yes.
Director Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
President Hayes, I yield to my, to my left.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
No, but
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary Treasurer, call the roll.
Director Hughes? Director Hughes? Director Lucas?
Yes.
Director Granger?
Yes.
Director Street? Director Branch? Motion passes 5-0.
You boys all play.
I'd love to see